Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto and Kyuubi work together to help Naruto survive his harsh life in Konoha Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Namake's Minato stood upon Gamabunta's head, holding a newly born child in his hands. His child. His Naruto, forever destined to hold a terrible burden. One that he never asked for, and one he could never shed without untold destruction. Konoha's yellow flash sighed as he looked at his sleeping Naruto. His son, his last remaining relative on the face of the earth, and soon to be an orphan. Tears welled in the Hokage's eyes at the thought of his beloved wife. She had died in his arms less than 10 minutes ago in the hospital. She had died in childbirth. The strain of being a ninja combined with giving birth proved too much for his beloved. "Forgive me, my son," Minato begged softly. "Because of me, your life will be difficult. The village may not love you as I wish you would be as my son. Only time will tell. I'm sorry I can't live to see you grow up, to be happy, to laugh, to play, to cry, to succeed." A tear trickled down his face and splashed upon Naruto's brow. "I'm sorry, Naruto." The great leader of Konoha slowly lowered his head and kissed Naruto where his tear had landed. "May you grow up to be strong, wise, and loved. May you find happiness in many things and succeed in your life." His words were soft yet painfully spoken. There was weight behind his blessing. The blessing a father gives his son before sending him off into the world to forge his own path. He held the bundle of cloth tighter to his chest before forcing himself to look up. Almost immediately, the sounds of battle returned to his ears. He had blocked out the din of battle to focus solely on his son. Less than a mile away, the Kyuubi no Yoko stood thrashing at Konoha ninja as they attempted to stop the fox demon's path of destruction. To keep their village safe, they would make the ultimate sacrifice. Minato paused for a moment as he placed Naruto gently in between his feet, clamping the newborn firmly in place. He couldn't hold this off any longer. He knew that it was only a matter of time before the demon slaughtered every last leaf shinobi and attacked the village. He slowly and carefully formed seal after seal, stringing them together in a long and complex chain, weaving a powerful jutsu out of his chakra. Gradually, the pale unearthly shadow of the death god came into being, hovering behind him, its fearsome sight unseen to everyone on the battlefield. "Goodbye, Naruto." Namake's Minato felt the cold, death-like spectral hand reach through him as the death god stretched its arm out through Minato and towards the rampaging Biju. As soon as its arm reached its target, the nine-tailed fox froze. A blinding light filled the ravaged war zone as Minato directed the Kyuubi's form into his son. Almost instantly the demon was gone, and on Naruto's belly a swirl seal formed as black as the midnight sky. "Demon, if you can hear this, know that you will never escape." The fourth Hokage coughed as the death god moved in to claim its payment. "Aid my son in becoming the best person he can be." His voice weakened as life began to leave his body. "Teach him how to be strong, guide him to be a person of honor and courage." Minato was on his final reserves. The force of the death god couldn't be delayed for long. "Help him learn my jutsu and become even greater than I." With his dying breath, Namake's Minato managed to whisper, "I love you." He couldn't hold out any longer. With a savage yank, the death god pulled Minato's spirit from his body and ate it, slowly disappearing into nothing as he swallowed. With the death of his summoner, Gamabunta knew he couldn't stay long. With long, powerful hops, he carried his precious passengers back to Konoha, to the north gate opposite from the Hokage mountain. His tongue snaked up to his head and gently wrapped around the body of Minato and the now crying Naruto. He lifted them off and slowly placed them at the feet of an old ninja, one who had seen countless battles and had come through victoriously. "It is done," he boomed in a pained and sad voice. "Take care of him." With that, he disappeared in a large cloud of smoke which quickly disappeared. Sarutobi looked at the two forms at his feet. One living, the other dead. Sadly, the former Hokage of Konoha made a single shadow clone that picked up Minato's body, while he bent over and picked up the still crying bundle containing Naruto. He gazed at the newborn child in wonder and sheer amazement. Naruto had 3 long, thin scars on each cheek. They looked like whiskers. They were red and slanted upwards, tapered at both ends, making them look streamlined. Surprisingly, the scars fit the boy's face perfectly. They were neither too long, nor too short. They complemented his visage to the point where they looked as if they belonged there. The third shook his head. Naruto's burden would affect his life forever. Foster parents were an unlikely bet. No one would want the prisoner of the Kyuubi in their homes. The people would live in constant fear of the boy, knowing what was sealed inside him. There was no chance for the village to not find out what Naruto held. The death of the well-liked and adored fourth would need a thorough explanation. Nothing could be withheld as the villagers would without a doubt demand an explanation. The aged man sighed again as the mournful faces of the villagers began to emerge from their houses, hearing the terrible sounds of battle cease. Individuals wept at the sight of Namikaze Minato dead in the arms of the third. Sarutobi made his way through the streets of Konoha to the Hokage's mansion, where he handed his successor's body to a small group of ninja specifically summoned to prepare their fallen leader's body for the grave. Wrapped in his bundle of cloth, a now sleeping Naruto lay unnoticed by the crowds and the ninja. The third slowly made his way to the Hokage's office, where he closed the door and examined Minato's last work. On top of the desk lay a scroll with hastily written but neat script. Sarutobi sat down slowly in the chair behind the desk and picked up the document with one hand, the other keeping Naruto on his lap. Sarutobi-sama. If you are reading these words, then you know I am dead and the Kyuubi is sealed inside my child. I'm about to head to the hospital now, but I need to write out my last testament for my child's sake. I know not whether it is a boy or a girl, but that doesn't matter. All I want is for him, or her, to grow up knowing how to live honorably and courageously. I would rather have lived out this battle to see my child's future. I know that his or her life without me will be difficult. The medics informed me that there is a strong chance that Kushina will die from childbirth. They told me that the strains of giving birth are intense as it is, but her life as a shinobi may have pushed her body too far. If she is to die, then I wish for my son to be brought up in as loving an environment as possible. I know that you cannot take him in with more than likely your reinstatement as Hokage, but I beg that you find him a suitable home and watch out for him as he grows older. Kushina and I decided that if we died, he would have the name Uzumaki Naruto. If he held my name, he would attract far too many of my enemies. When he reaches a mature age, please tell him who his parents were. Growing up without even knowing who his parents were will be tough, but it is for his own protection. Signed, Namikaze Minato. Sarutobi couldn't help but let a few tears roll down his face as he finished reading Minato's will and letter. I will do as you ask, Minato, he whispered resolutely. I promise you that. The aged Hokage placed the letter on the desk and resumed to shift through the other letters and documents. Most scrolls were about sealing techniques, which Minato had pulled out of storage in an attempt to find something to use against the Kyuubi. Amid the jumbles of the scrolls, the third was able to find mission reports and team assignments. Those he piled on the floor in order of mission rank, placing the S and A class missions closest to his desk, while leaving the lower B, C, and D class missions over to one side of the office. The bane of the Kages seemed to be paperwork. Nothing was more time-consuming, nerve-wracking, tedious, and hated in the Kage's line of duty. The most powerful shinobi of the hidden villages were stuck in their respective villages, doing paperwork, not missions, paperwork. Sarutobi sighed as he gently picked up Naruto. The infant would need a wet nurse. With the number of shinobi killed in the attack, the orphanages would be admitting more children. More children meant an easier time slipping Naruto into the organization without unneeded attention. The old shinobi sighed as he exited the office. He was going to have to retake the title of Hokage. He was going to have to rebuild Konoha to its former strength. He was going to have to deal with Naruto. Not surprisingly, the streets of the Hidden Leaf were packed with civilians and ninja alike, all of them trying to help the wounded to the hospital. Konoha's renowned medical teams would have to come through for the village yet again as the wounded continued to flood into the gates. No one seemed to notice the Hokage suddenly change into civilian and mingle into the crowd. He was hidden as a middle-aged man with scars on his face, obviously a laborer, with brown hair, brown eyes, and plain clothes. Nothing stood out about him except for the sleeping infant in his arms. When he arrived at the most hospitable and well-known orphanage in Konoha, he acted confused and slightly on edge. Excuse me? His voice was deep and commanding and instantly got the attention of an aide. Can I help you? She asked in a kind voice, one that exuded calmness and peace. She had been around children long enough to learn how to ease them back to sleep or calm their fears, however strong they might be. I was told to bring this child here, the Hokage's hinged voice said with some uncertainty. He was a ninja who was leaving for battle. That's understandable, the aide replied. Did he say who he was? No, but he said his son's name was Uzumaki Naruto, Sarutobi replied, his false voice slowly gaining confidence. He said that if he survived, he would come to reclaim his son here, so here I am. Very well, the aide said with a sigh. With such an intense attack, we are literally overflowing with new orphans. Naruto started to cry that moment. I guess he is hungry. She looked at the man and said, I'll take him from here. Thank you for bringing him, and if you see the man, tell him where his son is. I will, Sarutobi replied, knowing full well that Minato would never come. He walked out of the orphanage and into the streets. He released his henge and readied himself to face the attack at hand. 5 years go by. Naruto was running as fast as his little legs would carry him. Behind him, an angry crowd was chasing him, throwing all manner of projectiles at the poor blonde boy. Ducking into an alleyway, Naruto desperately hoped that he could escape in the narrow confines between the two-story buildings. Unfortunately for him, it was a dead end. He was never going to escape now. Desperate, he huddled into a shadow as best he could. In the late afternoon sun, the towering building prevented the sunlight from reaching the pavement, creating an artificial twilight. Only 5 of the mob decided to brave the dark and smelly alley to search for their prey. "Come out, demon," one said in a sickening sing-song voice, mocking the terrified Naruto. "Come out and die." Naruto couldn't help but huddle closer to the alley wall, partially hidden by a dumpster. His arms were wrapped around his knees, which were tucked into his chest. Naruto was small, but his blonde hair and lack of objects to hide behind didn't aid in his hiding. Even in the artificial twilight, he would be completely visible if the villagers only edged a little further down the alley. He shivered in the crisp October air. For some reason, they stopped and abruptly turned around and left the alleyway. A teenage boy wearing a ninja outfit, complete with a Hittite, dropped from the rooftop and landed next to the small 5-year-old. "You saved me?" Naruto asked, struggling for words. Even though he was a 5, his vocabulary wasn't stellar. Being called monster and demon all his miserable and lonesome life didn't help him build his speech. "Why do you think I tricked them into leaving you unharmed?" he asked with a grin on his face. "I know," Naruto replied, stuttering just like the first time. "So I can kill you now, demon?" The teenager slowly drew a kunai from his weapon's pouch. "This is for my parents whom you killed." The boy drew back his arm. "Duck and roll," Naruto heard a woman's voice cry out. He immediately did as the voice commanded, but was too slow. The ninja plunged the gleaming black kunai into Naruto's heart, or he would have if Naruto hadn't started to move. Instead, he stabbed right through the young blonde's rib cage and right lung, causing Naruto to scream in pain. The primal cry was enough to make all but the hardened veteran flinch. It was filled with pain and anguish beyond comprehension. The teenage shinobi swore shamelessly as he missed the heart of his parents' killer. Naruto coughed up blood as he tried to gasp in shock and pain. More blood trickled down his cheek as it leaked from the corner of his mouth. His now torn shirt was soaked in thick red blood that flowed from the hole in his chest. The ninja would have continued his assault if it were not for several other leaf shinobi and civilians coming to investigate. Hastily, he withdrew his weapon from Naruto's chest and leapt out of the alleyway, leaping from rooftop to flee the scene of his cruel assault. Reality for 5-year-old Naruto was different from the bloodied mess the villagers found. Although the boy was still alive, he seemed to be unconscious, not surprising considering the amount of pain and blood loss the kid was suffering. Reality for Naruto was damp and dark. His fearful eyes glanced from side to side, seeking something, anything that could tell him where he was. He heard a rumble to his left, and glanced in that direction. Although his appeared to be in a tunnel of some sort, with a few inches of water at the base, a red glow seemed to emanate from the side tunnel. "Who there?" he asked in a frightened and subdued voice. He heard nothing in reply, so he stood up and walked towards the light with one hand on the tunnel wall for guidance and support. He walked for only 20 of 30 steps before a huge chamber opened up before him. The young Naruto couldn't help but gaze upwards in awe of the immense height. After a moment, he leveled his gaze at an immense gate in front of him. Its thick iron bars were square and allowed Naruto's curious head to peer inside the cage. "Naruto," crooned the woman's voice again. "Where you?" Naruto asked, confused by not being able to see whoever was talking to him. "Why I no see?" "I'm right in front of you, Naruto," the voice said again. "Do you wish to see me?" It was calm and soothing, almost tender as the voice spoke to the small blonde. "Yes," Naruto replied almost instantly. "I want to see you," he said in his little kid's voice. Behind the bars of the gate, an immense form materialized. Red eyes slowly opened and a halo of red light illuminated the voice's owner. Naruto yelped and scrambled away from the large creature behind the gate. "I will not hurt you, Naruto," the creature said softly and comfortingly. "Who you?" Naruto asked in his broken speech, but still able to convey his question. "I am Kyuubi no Kitsune," the red creature replied. "I am the nine-tailed fox." "Nine-tails bad," Naruto said automatically. "I'll say so." "Not everyone knows who I am," the Kyuubi replied. "You girl?" Naruto asked curiously as he listened to the female voice resounding through the cavern. "Yes, silly. I'm a girl," the Kyuubi answered, grinning and revealing a row of flashing white teeth that seemed threatening to the small boy who scurried away further. "You may call me Kyu-chan." "Kyu-chan?" Naruto half asked and half stated. "That you? Why you here? Where here?" Naruto's rapid-fire, scared questions assaulted the Kyuubi in a sudden barrage. "1. Yes, the creature you see is me," the Kyuubi replied. "2. I'm here because I'm in your mind. 3. This is your mind. My head? Naruto asked, unsure of what the Kyuubi referred to. Yes, your head and your mind. The place where you think. The Kyuubi replied. You're asleep right now, that's why I can talk with you. I sleep? Naruto asked, confused. He was obviously awake. How could he be talking if he was sleeping? It's hard to explain. The Kyuubi said softly. Don't worry. I'm here to protect you. You keep me safe from bad people? Naruto asked, finally able to make a complete sentence. Yes, I will, she replied. I will help you get strong and grow. How? Naruto asked. How you do that if you in my head? I can tell you how. The nine-tailed vixen replied. Now it is time for you to wake up so you can get strong. Naruto was about to protest, but the scene before his eyes faded to black, letting him fall to sleep. Naruto woke up slowly. At first he heard a constant, steady electronic beep. The next thing he noticed was that he felt warm, yet something soft and silky was rubbing over his bare skin as he moved. The final sense that activated was his smell. The sterile smell of a hospital filled his nostrils. Groaning, he rolled over, but found something holding him back. His eyes opened slowly. A harsh white light overhead made him squint until his eyes could adjust. He turned his head and saw wires running from his body to a box on a cart. A soft, glowing square monitor showed graphs and tables full of data that the 5-year-old couldn't make heads or tails of, pun intended. He weakly tried to sit up, but again, the wires restricted his movements. He felt something rough rub gently against his skin as he bent his torso slightly. He looked down and saw that the right side of his chest was bandaged tightly with a long, pure white strip of cloth. Almost immediately as he lay back down, fingering his bandage, a nurse slid open his door and stepped inside. Naruto clamped his eyes closed and pretended to be asleep, but the machine, which the nurse examined, measured his increased heart rate and gave him away. It's okay, she said softly as she turned to stroke his spiky blonde hair with one hand, the other scribbling something illegible onto a piece of paper on her clipboard. You're safe here. She played with his hair almost absent-mindedly as she continued to examine instruments and other readouts. You took quite a blow. We were surprised when you began to show signs of recovery even before we healed you up. Naruto was completely relaxed in his bed. The nurse's stroking and playing with his hair had left him in a semi-hypnotized state. He was comfortable. For the first time in his miserable life, he was comfortable. He relaxed and let his eyelids droop down. He yawned and fell back asleep. The nurse smiled at this and finally pulled her hand from his hair as gently as she could. She scribbled another note onto her papers and then left the room as quietly as she could. -2 later. Naruto-kun! The Kyuubi's voice rang out, pulling Naruto from his slumber and into the waking world. He glanced around his hospital room and saw he was disconnected from the machine. It was in the corner of the room opposite from the bed and powered down. What is it? Naruto asked aloud. Think your words and I'll bear them. You should know that by now. Her voice was comforting and yet concerned at the same time. Oh right. Naruto replied. Sorry I forgot. Obviously. The vixen said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. In the past 2 years Naruto's speech had improved dramatically, thanks to the tireless work of the nine-tailed fox sealed inside him. Already she had started to train him to become stronger. He was currently learning how to access and manipulate his chakra. Things like hand seals and jutsus were out of the question. The Kyuubi didn't know them. To compensate for that loss of training, she made an extra effort to help him with his physical conditioning. For a 7-year-old, Naruto was strong. He constantly was lifting and carrying rocks around one of the lighter sections of forest surrounding the village itself. Under the vixen's careful eye he set to building small forts to which he could escape to if he needed. They were carefully hidden among the foliage and were almost invisible to the naked eye. Having to drag and carry moderately heavy loads gradually increased Naruto's strength and conditioning. When he first started, even the smaller of rocks proved challenging for him to transport even a few meters. Now he was pulling long branches through the woods. It's tougher than it sounds, you try it, to quicken the building process and add some camouflage to his hideouts. All his alcoves were watertight and stocked with small amounts of non-perishable food. If he needed to, he could close himself into one and remain there for nearly 2 days before needing to replenish his water and food supplies. An unrealized boon of spending so much time in the training areas of a shinobi village was finding discarded kunai and shuriken. Although he didn't know how to use them, he still stockpiled the ones the Kyuubi thought were in reasonable condition. The rest he sold as scrap to a local smith, named Darren, who gladly took the stiff metals off of Naruto's hands for both money and sometimes a blanket or another useful item. Even though little Naruto made incredible efforts to keep well fed, The amount of food he could buy with his pitiful income was negligible compared with the nutrition he needed. There were times when he could have sworn that a lady behind him in line was charged a quarter what some shop owners charged him, but he never complained. That surprised the Kyuubi the most about her host. No matter what they did to him, Naruto wouldn't cross the villagers. It was impressed upon him very early on that everyone hated him for some unknown and hidden reason. No matter what he said, no matter how flawless his logic, he was still discriminated and ostracized. To say the least, he was in a rough situation almost every day. Whether it was a mob of villagers, or a lone ninja or two, he was harassed and beaten on a regular basis. He could try to hide and use a different route every day, but they still found him. Despite this, the pair couldn't look at it as anything but training. The more poundings he took, the tougher he would get. His new muscles helped reduce some internal damage, but even they were not enough. The Kyuubi was constantly using her chakra to heal her host's body after nearly each beating. To the villagers, this was just another sign that he really was a demon. No matter what they threw at him, he always ventured back into the town the next day, never seeming to be in pain from his injuries the previous day. Groaning, Naruto slid upright in the bed, still partially covered by the bed sheets. He yawned and raised his arms over his head to stretch. The tightness in his side alerted him to a fresh bandage wrapped around his torso. The previous morning he had been ambushed by two particularly cruel ninja. Even after slicing him up with kunai and shuriken from a distance, they had kicked him in the side when he was immobile on the ground. He grimaced at the memory of the pain he had felt as 10 of his ribs shattered under their blows. If it wasn't for the vixen sealed inside him, he knew he would be dead. Her power to heal his body almost instantly had kept his internal organs from bursting and instantly killing him. If it weren't for a patrolling ANBU, he would have been too injured to continue living. Cuts and scrapes were one thing to heal, but broken bones and shattered ribs were a completely different level. Even his partner couldn't heal those quickly. As if the room was bugged to let the nurse know he was awake, his nurse opened the door and stepped inside. She was the same one for all his trips to the hospital. No one else came in to check on him. She was the only one. She had deep blue hair that fell to her shoulders. Her face was soft and warm. It helped comfort Naruto when he was terrified of something or needed a kind face after enduring years of angry glares. Her mother's touch helped Naruto trust her the most. She seemed to know exactly how to stroke his hair or touch him in a comforting manner. Don't get ideas, Jiraiya. Despite all her care and lack of ill will, Naruto still found himself not completely trusting her. Years of abuse left him as a cornered animal, not trusting, always suspicious. The animalistic ways of the Kyuubi made him act more like one in turn. He was broken from his train of thought as she spoke. You're all set. Naruto looked at her. Your bones seem to be healing incredibly quickly. All you have to do is keep that bandage on for a few days for everything to completely heal. Naruto nodded in understanding. Thank you? He mumbled as he sat up straighter. She smiled at his words. You are quite welcome, Naruto. But please, for your sake, don't go looking for fights. You're always getting hurt. It's not like I'm trying to find a fight, Naruto replied sullenly. They come looking for me. Both of them knew who they was. All the villagers and a portion of the ninja population hated him for what he contained. Well, try to take it easy for a few days, she said, laying his clothes at the foot of the bed. You're free to go. You've recovered sufficiently to make your way home and rest. Thanks for everything, Naruto called after the nurse as she left the room smiling. Quickly he stripped off his hospital clothes and slipped into his own patched but intact clothes. He slipped out of the hospital and successfully made it to one of his many hideouts. Once inside he relaxed and flopped down on the ground, careful to keep his ribs from screaming in protest. Careful, the Kyuubi warned. You aren't healed all the way yet. You need to rest for a while. But I'll need to get food by noon tomorrow, Naruto complained. I'll need to move about. Didn't you listen to a word that your nurse said to you? She asked. She said to not strain yourself for several days. She paused to contemplate their situation. I'll have to think of something to help you out. But what about food? Naruto asked. You certainly have a one-track mind. You know that? The Kyuubi asked, musing about what to do. Food is important, Naruto retorted. I need food to survive. You might be able to summon me, the Kyuubi said after a minute of ignoring Naruto's protests and rants about food. How would that help me? Naruto asked. You're hundreds of feet tall and will attract a bit of attention. Baka! She shouted, smashing her many tails into the water in her cage. I'm incredibly powerful. The only reason why I'm big is because of all the power I have. If you were to limit the amount of chakra that leaks out, I could assume any size needed. If this was possible, why didn't you make me summon you when you first started to talk with me? Naruto asked, slightly betrayed by the vixen's apparent lack of consideration. Back then you didn't have the strength to do diddly squat, she said, offended by the blonde's accusation that she, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, would betray someone. Now, only after all your training, might you be ready for this. Alright, Naruto replied, slightly forgiving the fox. So how do I do it? I haven't gotten that far yet, she confessed. Naruto's sweat dropped at this. Then why mention it if you don't know how it would be done? Naruto asked. I'm sorry, she replied. But I could teach you how to bring the big version of me out. I'm only working on the size control right now. How long have you been working on this? Naruto asked. Sure. She hushed him. About 5 minutes and I'm almost done, so stay quiet. The blonde could hear the Kyuubi's mutterings and after another 5 minutes she finally spoke. Alright, I've got it. Finally! Took you long enough. Naruto exclaimed with mock exasperation. You try figuring out something this complex in 10 minutes. She retorted. All you have to do is hold your hands in this position. She pulled Naruto into his subconscious in front of her cage. She used her forepaws to show Naruto the hand seal. I thought you didn't know any hand seals. Naruto's voice rang out and echoed around the chamber. I don't, she replied. That's why I invented this one. Naruto blinked, taken aback by her words. You created a hand seal? Naruto tried to take in the magnitude of those words. I thought that was impossible. The Kyuubi sighed. Hand seals are used to manipulate your chakra without having to concentrate hard. In reality, you don't need the hand seals to perform a jutsu if you know exactly how you need to mold and manipulate your chakra. She explained to him how most of the time, shinobi used hand seals to make forming the jutsu easier and more effective. You could learn how to summon me into any size you want, but that would take years to learn and then many more years to master. Instead, this hand seal will allow you to mold your chakra and only have to concentrate on the flow. The flow determines my size. Naruto tried to form the complicated hand seal in the Kyuubi's presence before he got it down correctly. Looking at the seal, he realized that it looked like a tent. He interlocked all his fingers except his index and middle fingers, which he crossed to form a V. Pulling out of his subconscious, he practices forming the seal a few more times. On his fourth try he let an inkling of the Kyuubi's chakra through the seal. With a poof, an incredibly small fox stood in front of Naruto. A little more chakra next time, she said in Naruto's mind. Naruto nodded and released the new jutsu. The Kyuubi disappeared in a second poof of smoke. Alright, how much more chakra would you recommend? The blonde boy asked. Maybe twice as much, the vixen replied. I'd like to be the size of a normal fox. Alright, Naruto replied as he performed the jutsu again. When the smoke cleared this time, the Kyuubi sat blinking at Naruto. She was about 3 feet long, with a single tail swinging behind her. I thought that you had 9 tails, Naruto stated. The more power I have, the more tails I will grow, she replied. With the pitiful amount of chakra you let me have, this is the biggest I can grow with the most tails possible. So you could have 9 tails worth of power while still being that size? Naruto asked. Yes, but the power would undoubtedly bring shinobi running for miles to investigate. She sighed. She would love to be roaming the plains and feeling the air run through her fur, but instead she was trapped inside a small, human boy. The kind of power I possess cannot be hidden or masked. There is simply too much. Oh, alright, Naruto said. So are you going to get food or something? I was just heading out, the vixen replied as she bounded out the entrance and disappeared into the underbrush around the hideout. Naruto looked out trying to see the red fox through the dense foliage, but to no avail. Sighing, he settled into a slight depression in the ground that he fit in perfectly. Without anything else to do, Naruto picked up one of his many kunai and began to whittle a short stick. It was one of his habits that he fell into when he needed to think or simply pass the time. Now was just time to be wasted. With his Q-chan out hunting or doing something to gather some food, all the little blonde 7-year-old could do was to wait for her return. He whittled and whittled, not really paying attention to what he was doing with his hands, completely on autopilot. He heard a twig snap outside and then another. Q-chan, where are you? I'm stalking a rabbit. Sure, she replied from her location not too far away. There's someone near me on the outside, Naruto said with worry creeping into his voice. Shit, I'll be there as fast as I can be, the Kyuubi said, leaping from her hiding spot, scaring the rabbit half to death, and bolting back towards the hideout. You'd better be alright when I get there. Naruto snapped to attention when he heard the twigs snap as people drew nearer to his hideout. Almost immediately, he dropped the stick he was whittling, and grasped the hilt of the kunai in a firm grip. He crawled to the far side of his hideout, farthest away from the entrance, and waited with nervous excitement. His ribs screamed in protest as he bumped ever so slightly against the wall of his abode. Naruto could hear voices now, as the snapping grew closer. Even through his walls the voices could be heard with some clarity. Hinata-chan. Your father doesn't like it when you leave on your own. The kind woman's voice struck a chord with the blonde Jinchuriki. She sounded like a kind mother. Hi, Oka-san. Squeaked a small and timid voice of a girl around Naruto's age. Her voice had not yet developed, and was still as small as she was. Should I try to use my Byakugan? Why not? The older woman replied. It would make father proud if you improved your abilities with it. Naruto heard a shuffling in front of the entrance of his hideout. Timidly, he crawled to the entrance, and peered out to see to whom the voices belonged to. There were 2 people standing a mere 3 meters from his door. The smaller one, who looked to be exactly his age, had her hands clasped together in front of her. Byakugan! She cried and startled Naruto. Her eyes seemed to suddenly bulge out of her head. Upon further examination from Naruto's hiding place, he realized that it was the veins around her eyes that had bulged out. When she turned slightly in Naruto's direction, he could see that her eyes were pale lavender, almost completely white. He gasped slightly, attracting the attention of the older woman. She started to walk towards Naruto's position when the Kyuubi burst out of the undergrowth and slid to a stop in front of Naruto and the entrance. Naruto was relieved at the sight of his foxy companion, but he was still scared of the 2 human females near a meter from his hidden location. The younger girl, who Naruto remembered the older woman calling her Hinata, turned to look at the Kyuubi who was just in front of Naruto. Suddenly she gasped as she noticed Naruto hiding in his living space. Her Byakugan enabled her to pierce through the walls and see the young blonde crouching by the entrance. Oka-san, there's someone in there. She flashed behind the older woman and peered out from behind her legs. She pointed at the foliage slightly behind a slightly growling Kyuubi. Are you sure? The older woman asked, not taking her eyes off the fox. Hi, Hinata replied. A boy, his chakra coils are highly developed for someone our age. How does she know where I am? Naruto asked the Kyuubi. She has the Byakugan, it's one of the Konoha clan bloodlines. The Kyuubi replied. With the training she has had with it, it's no surprise that she saw you. Should I step out, Kyuchan? Naruto asked his vixen companion. They already know I'm here. Staying hidden no longer holds a tactical advantage, she replied. Just make sure you're armed and ready to run. Naruto stepped out like the Kyuubi suggested, holding his kunai in a defensive position. The weapon surprised both females, but only Hinata showed it. Who are you? Naruto asked, his nervousness clearly evident in his wavering voice. What are you doing here? The Kyuubi moved to stand next to Naruto, still weary of the females, but ready to fight nonetheless. I am Hyuga Hinata. Hinata squeaked from behind the older women. And I am her mother, the older woman said. Now who are you? I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto replied quietly. The Hyugas standing in front of him barely heard him, but were able to decipher what he said. It's nice to meet you, Naruto-kun, Hinata's mother said. Why are you out here? I'm hiding from the villagers. Naruto replied truthfully, looking incredibly wary of the 2 near him. Careful, cautioned the Kyuubi as she tensed, ready for whatever reaction the Hyuga might have. Why are you hiding from them? Hinata asked. Are you playing a game? No, they like to hurt me real bad, Naruto said in a hushed voice. What have they done to you? Hinata's mother asked in concern. Well, from what the nurse said this morning, I have 6 broken ribs and something called a concussion. Naruto answered the woman. Almost immediately she frowned harshly. Have they done anything else to you? She demanded fiercely. How often do they hurt you? Every time I sneak into the village for food or something, they seem to find me and beat me up. Naruto's eyes welled up with some tears, causing him to wipe them dry. He didn't sniffle or bawl his eyes out, but tried to regain his composure and continue. They leave me such bad shape that I have to go to the hospital 2 or 3 times a month. You poor thing, the older woman said sadly. How do you survive? Most people would be bedridden for weeks with broken ribs like yourself. I have Kyuchan, Naruto said as he bent over gently and scratched the Kyuubi's neck and the back of her ears like he had seen people do to their dogs in the village. She leaned into him, trying to savor the feeling, but instantly remembered the situation they were in and pulled back. She looked at the 2 female Hyuga and sniffed the air around them. Besides, I heal fast. Yes, you are lucky to have such a faithful companion, Hinata's mother replied and smiled. Now since you asked us what we were doing out here, I will tell you. She placed a hand on Hinata's shoulder and scooted the girl in front of her. Hinata wandered off from our walk while I was talking to some other clansmen. I caught up to her here where we found you. She looked at the blonde boy standing before her and at his sharp, clear blue eyes. Does that answer your question? Yes, thank you. Naruto had let his kunai fall to a neutral position earlier when the two didn't attack immediately, but now he threw it back into his hideout, relaxing in their presence. They are trustworthy, the Kyuubi said as she finished sniffing them and the air around them. If they had wanted to harm you, they could have done so almost immediately. Besides, they don't have any sense around them to indicate anger or an inclination to violence. Are you sure? Naruto asked. This could be a trap. I don't think so, they seem to have honest intentions, but nevertheless don't trust them blindly. Take a kunai or two with you, she replied. What do you mean? They aren't taking me anywhere, Naruto said. So would you like to come with us to have something to eat? Hinata's mother asked Naruto. Go ahead, I'll be with you, urged the Kyuubi. It's about time he made a friend and an ally. Okay, Naruto answered. Let me grab a few things. He vanished back down his hole and returned a moment later with a small sack full of shuriken and kunai. When he received a strange look from the older woman, he explained. I find these laying around the training grounds and sell them as scrap metal. His answer seemed to satisfy the mother who, upon further examination, saw that the weapons were deformed, dulled and defiantly not in usable condition. The mother and daughter duo lead Naruto through the forest along a walking trail that villagers occasionally used to take peaceful walks on. As they neared the village, the three drew increasing amounts of attention. Naruto also began to hear the usual whispers of monster and demon as well as a few vicious comments directed towards the two Hyuga. What are they doing with him? And I thought that the Hyuga had more class. When Naruto heard the comments directed towards his two companions, he snarled. The Kyuubi, running around Naruto's heels, also drew back her snout to form a noiseless snarl as she felt Naruto's anger and heard the comments. Upon entering the village proper, the news that one Uzumaki Naruto had entered the gates of Konoha spread like wildfire. Soon, a small crowd followed only a dozen steps behind the three. Hinata's mother ignored the crowd for a few blocks, but finally she stopped, spun around and confronted the crowd. Can I help you? She demanded. You can give us that demon, one man shouted. You should know better than associate with monsters such as him, a second cried. We must kill it for what it did to us, a third and fourth voice demanded. Soon the crowd formed a circle around the three. Hinata's mother backed the three of them up against the wall and placed herself in front of both Naruto and Hinata, protecting them equally. At some unspoken signal, the crowd rushed towards the three standing against the wall, with the intent to kill Naruto and whoever stood in their way, no matter who they were. Naruto and the Kyuubi flew into action. Naruto flung the heavy bag of broken ninja weaponry at the nearest few villagers who were knocked back by the force. This gave Naruto time to carefully remove two good kunai from underneath his shirt, and readied himself for the next wave of villagers. To Naruto's right, Hinata's mother had engaged in a taijutsu fight with some more villagers. Despite the fact she wasn't a kunoichi, being a part of a ninja clan taught her how to defend herself. She and Naruto stood protectively in front of Hinata, whose activated Byakugan helped her dodge any projectiles that might have gotten past her protectors. The Kyuubi stood furthest to the right and leapt at anyone who approached her. She showed no mercy and brutally incapacitated all the men who tried to attack her. In under a minute, ANBU ninja arrived at the scene and forced the mob to stop their assault. They were slightly shocked to see a bloody Kyuubi standing over the fallen men on her side of the fight. For the most part, the only injuries suffered by Hinata and her mother was scrapes and minor bruises. Naruto, on the other hand, only aggravated his broken ribs, causing him to seize up in pain after the fight was over. He also received a fresh set of deep cuts that were already closing up thanks to the Kyuubi's chakra. In addition, his clothes were torn and bloodied beyond hope and he looked like a war veteran returning home from battle, except he had no home to go home to. After taking Hinata and her mother's statements, the ANBU ninja and a few other on-duty Konoha shinobi cleared the wounded to the hospital while arresting others for disturbing the peace and assault of an honorable clan member. Hinata's mother looked over the blonde who had just helped protect her daughter before deciding what to do. Come, we're getting you some new clothes, she said to Naruto while firmly grasping Hinata's hand. After that we'll get something to eat. This embarrassed Naruto to no end. No, I should probably let you go on your way. I'm sorry I put you two in danger, it won't happen again. Hinata's mother looked at Naruto in almost complete disbelief. Naruto-kun, you just helped protect my daughter. I must repay your actions in some way. Besides, it would be dishonorable for a Hyuga to ignore your actions and let you go unrewarded. Naruto shuffled his feet in embarrassment but fell into step behind the two Hyuga. Hinata's mother led the two children around the square until they came to a suitable clothing store. When they entered, the store owner appeared at the older woman's side. How may I be of assistance, Hyuga-sama? I would like to buy something to fit Naruto. She pointed to the blonde before continuing. He helped protect my daughter today, but his clothes were ruined in the process. Her words seemed to affect the man on a deep level. Unknown to his customers, he had lost a daughter-in-law the night the Kyuubi attacked. He had long blamed the blonde Uzumaki Naruto for her passing, but the words of the older woman suddenly changed his opinion of the boy. Instead of a monster, the boy was a hero. He didn't know what possessed him to suddenly shift his view of the boy, but something just clicked inside of him that changed him. I think that I might have something sturdy in his size. Hold on a moment, please. He turned around and disappeared into the back of his store. The three heard boxes being moved about for a minute before a grunt of approval filtered back into the store. The man reappeared a moment later carrying several articles of clothing. These are older styles, but very sturdy material. He let Hinata's mother feel the weave of the fabric of one article of clothing. When she nodded in approval, he continued. This one is a cross between somewhat formal wear and work clothes. It was a two-piece shirt and pants that readily allowed for the sleeves and pant legs to be removed in the heat. It was, however, a nice shade of blue that remarkably complemented Naruto's eyes. It also had some silver woven into the collar. The man held up a second option after Naruto had finished looking at the first. This one is more for work and harsh conditions than the first, but the shirt also can be flipped inside out for a dressier look. Naruto looked at the second for less time than the first, and then looked at the man as he presented the third and final article of clothing. It was a white shirt and a black pair of pants. The back of the shirt boasted a black embroidered swirl meant to be a decoration. The pant legs were also able to detach to allow the wearer to be comfortable in the heat. The material was stiff and strong while also being. May I try this one on? Naruto asked the man hesitantly. Sure, just as long as you take off your bloodied shirt before and wipe as much dirt off as you can, his storekeeper replied with a smile. He pointed to a small closet, which Naruto disappeared into to change. He emerged a moment later, wearing the shirt and pants. Although the pants were too long for him, he had removed the bottom portion of the legs and wore them as shorts. Both articles of clothing were slightly too big. They gave Naruto a comfortable fit while giving him room to grow. I like this one, Naruto stated. Then we'll get it, Hinata's mother said with a smile. Turning to the shopkeeper, she asked, how much do they cost? Considering that I was going to turn them into scrap material when I got the time, no charge, he replied, much to the older woman's shock. In fact, I have a few more sets that you can have for free if you'd like. You'd save me the trouble of storing and dealing with them. That is most generous. She bowed to the old man. Thank you. Thank you, sir, Naruto said, imitating Hinata's mother, and bowed slightly. The man smiled as he came back a moment later with a small bag of identical clothes to the ones Naruto was wearing. Here you go. He handed it to Naruto, who accepted the bag and peeked inside to see 3 other sets. Hinata's mother led Naruto and Hinata out of the shop after she thanked the owner again for his generosity. She took them down a side street, which intersected the main street of Konoha. They made their way towards the Hokage's tower before taking a left and stopped before a small outdoor restaurant. Have you ever had ramen? Hinata asked, overcoming her shyness to manage the sentence. Naruto shook his head. I've never heard of ramen, what is it? Hinata's mother chuckled at Naruto's response. Come up here and find out, she said, patting a seat next to her of the opposite side of her daughter. Needless to say, the following meal turned out to be quite enjoyable for Naruto. Ramen was now officially his favorite food. As he slurped through his 4th bowl, he paused to enjoy the exquisite taste. He wasn't shy when it came to letting the cooks know how good their meal was. Hinata's mother smiled as she watched the blonde on her right eat with gusto and pack away more food than she thought a 7-year-old could possibly eat. Naruto stopped after his 4th bowl and patted his rounded stomach. Thank you very much for the meal. The blonde felt something furry rub against his dangling legs and looked down to see the Kyuubi, somehow cleaned off from the fight, sitting next to his stool. Smiling, he patted/scratched her head fondly, earning him something comparable to a purr from the vixen. You were right, they are nice people, Naruto told the Kyuubi. They got me new clothes and 4 bowls of the most amazing food ever, ramen. Are you going to do anything else with them? The fox asked her host. I don't know, Naruto replied, but I'll find out soon enough. Naruto-kun, I would like for you to meet Hinata's father, my husband. I'm sure that he would like to know who helped protect his daughter. Naruto only nodded as he took this information in. In his head, Naruto was stunned at how he was being treated. For the first time in his life, someone had actually bought something for him and was trying to introduce him to their family. From what the Kyuubi had told him about the Hyuga clan, he knew that they were a proud and powerful clan and one of the most respected in Konoha. You should be glad that this woman has taken an interest in you, the vixen walking next to Naruto said. Naruto suddenly became aware that he was entering a walled and gated compound. He had been so deep in thought that he didn't remember walking there. If they decide to support you or take you under their wing, you wouldn't have to worry about the villagers. Ma'am? What should I call you? Naruto asked Hinata's mother. I don't want to appear disrespectful to you in front of your husband. Hinata's mother smiled at the blonde walking beside her. You may call me Lady Hyuga in front of him, and you should call him Hyuga-sama, or if he introduces himself, Hayashi-sama. Naruto nodded in understanding. Thanks, I'll remember that. He looked at Hinata, who had been quiet for a very long time. Are you okay? You haven't said anything for a while. I am fine, she whispered and then tried to hide behind her mother's legs. Okay, Naruto said, doubting her words. Man, that fight was scary. Hi. Hinata replied. But you were really brave to stand up to those people. Naruto asked. You really think so? He had never received a compliment from a human being in his 7 harsh years of existence. Thank you, Hinata-chan. Hinata blushed at Naruto's reply. In her eye, he was one of the bravest people she knew, second to her father and mother. Naruto fell silent as they stopped in front of a door. I'll go in and tell my husband about you. Wait here with Hinata until we call you in. Hinata's mother opened the door and disappeared into the room, closing the door behind her. Even though the conversation taking place between husband and wife was barely a wall away, Naruto couldn't hear anything but subtle and low murmurs. Naruto looked down at the Kyuubi as she wrapped her tail around his ankle in an affectionate manner. I thought that foxes didn't like humans. Hinata whispered to the blonde as she observed the affection between the two. Well, Q-chan and I go way back, Naruto replied in a low whisper. We kinda just came together years ago, and have stuck together ever since. His answer seemed to satisfy Hinata's curiosity for the moment. Hinata, Naruto. Please enter. A male voice filtered through the door. Hinata slid the door open, allowing Naruto and the Kyuubi to enter after her. Inside, Naruto saw Hinata's mother sitting next to a man with pale eyes like hers and Hinata's. They sat on a large mat with a low table in front of them. On the side of the table closest to the door and Hinata and Naruto, there were several small mats. Naruto sat down on one, imitating the way Hinata sat. The Kyuubi lay down next to him, placing her head on his lap. Absent-mindedly, Naruto scratched behind her ears, causing the Kyuubi to growl affectionately. Welcome to the Hyuga estate, Naruto-kun, the man said formally. My name is Hyuga Hayashi. Thank you, Hayashi-sama, Naruto replied respectfully, bowing his head slightly. Good job, the Kyuubi replied. That certainly should have surprised him a little if he knew about your upbringing. Welcome home, daughter, Hayashi said to Hinata. Thank you, father, the pale-eyed girl replied in a respectful way. My wife was just telling me about how you defended my daughter today in the streets, Hayashi said, turning to Naruto. I would like to personally thank you for your actions. I couldn't let anything happen to her, Naruto stated. I would never have forgiven myself if I could have kept her from injury and didn't. His vocabulary and strong words seemed out of place for a 7-year-old boy who had grown up without parents or anyone else to teach him. I'd say he's impressed by your words so far, the vixen said from his lap. How do you know? Naruto asked. You haven't even looked at him since we started to talk. I can feel how quick his heart is beating. I can feel a great many other things that all give me the same answer, she replied smugly. I have highly developed senses. I am interested to hear what you do with your time, Hayashi told Naruto. My wife said that you fought very well. She also said that your fox there fought quite capably as well. Well, I live a pretty painful life, Naruto began. I live mostly outside the village in little hideouts. When I'm not doing physical training or collecting broken kunai and shuriken from training fields and selling them for scrap, I'm being beaten up. The blonde paused to lift up his shirt to reveal white bandages around his ribs. 2 kunai were tucked into one wrap. I get hurt so badly that I have to go to the hospital at least 2 or 3 times a month. Just 2 days ago, I got 6 broken ribs and a concussion. He saw the head of the Hyuga wince slightly at the thought of his injury. How are you still standing and able to fight? He asked, unable to restrain himself. According to the nurse, I have some sort of incredible healing factor, Naruto replied. These bandages are mostly a precaution, but my ribs still hurt even though they are mostly healed. He let his shirt fall back down, hiding the bandages. I have learned that if I carry a kunai or two, I can keep all but the most determined villagers away. Have you been attacked by shinobi? Hayashi asked, interested in Naruto's past. Hi. Naruto replied, wincing. They hurt me the worst. The worst wound I got happened 2 years ago. Naruto told the head of the Hyuga clan about how he had nearly been stabbed through the heart. After that I decided to live outside the village. Hayashi was mildly impressed by Naruto's story. He had no delusions about the beast sealed within the young blonde. He was one of Namake's Minato's genin teammates. He respected the final wishes of his teammate, and never saw Naruto as the Kyuubi, which many villagers did. He was, however, curious about the red fox seemingly asleep in Naruto's lap. He would have to find out more about it later. Unfortunately, his duties as a clan leader demanded his attention at that moment. I must apologize for cutting short our time together today. Hayashi sighed as he stood up. My duties do not grant me the free time I wish I could have. Your actions today have earned my respect. Feel free to live with the Hyuga for as long as you wish. I look forward to talking with you in the future. Without another word, the head of the Hyuga clan swept out of the room. The Kyuubi's raised her head as soon as Hayashi left the room. He's interested in me, she stated. How can you tell? Naruto asked, amazed that she could even sense anything to indicate that. Simple, he was looking at me a lot during your meeting, the vixen replied. Are you going to stay with the Hyuga? I dunno, Naruto replied. What do you think? They seem nice enough. They didn't attack me, and have treated me well. I say that you take advantage of any opportunity that you come across, she answered. You could learn a lot from this clan. They have amazing chakra control, something which you lack. Yeah, and whose fault is that? Naruto retorted. It was your idea to build up my reserves like crazy. That's the only reason I have a hard time controlling my chakra. You needed the endurance and the strength at the time, the Kyuubi replied truthfully. If you worked on control, you'd have been dead within a week. Naruto-kun, why don't you come with me? Hinata's mom said to the blonde. We should ready a spare room for you. Thank you, Naruto said humbly. He was simply astounded by this clan's hospitality. Hayashi walked through the streets of Konoha heading towards the Hokage's tower. Although today was a regular meeting of clan heads and the civilian leaders, the wise Hyuga knew that something was going to happen, something big. It was just a gut feeling, but his experience taught him that those feelings were usually dead on. His day was about to become a lot more stressful. Hyuga Hayashi tried to alleviate his headache by massaging his temples. It didn't work. There was simply too much discord among the village leaders at this particular meeting. Naruto's little fight didn't go unnoticed by many of the council members who still bayed for his death, claiming that he was an unstable monster. He attacked a group of peaceful civilians and nearly killed several. One non-ninja councilman exclaimed, "A violation of law like this cannot go unpunished." Hayashi stood up. "Councilman, I'm not sure where you got your facts from, but I have 2 reliable accounts of today's incident that say otherwise." Are you defending that monster?" a second council member exclaimed as he stood up. "Whomever your sources are, they are false. I have plenty of eyewitnesses that say he was the first to make an aggressive move." "May I ask why you say my wife and daughter are liars?" Hayashi asked in his cold tone of voice that indicated he was mad. "Naruto is not a demon or a monster, or any of the other things that you may call him. He defended my daughter without any regard for his personal safety." "That is simply preposterous," a third civilian member stated. "He has a long history of fighting villagers whenever he enters the gates of Konoha." "Have you ever sat down and talked with him?" Hayashi demanded. "Obviously you have not. If you had, you would have learned that even with 6 broken ribs, he forced his body to fight to protect. My wife met him hiding in the forest. He was so terrified of her that he had a kunai in his hand while still hiding inside his little shelter. If it wasn't for his fox companion." "What?" a ninja member exclaimed this time. "Hokage-sama. If the boy can gain the trust of foxes, I think that this may indicate that the Kyuubi is influencing him." Hiyashi nodded his head in agreement, surprising the members of the council. "I believe that the Kyuubi has found a way to circumnavigate the seal." He held up his hand, calling for quiet as nearly everyone in the room burst out shouting. "However, I believe that it hasn't influenced him in any harmful way." "Please, Hayashi-san, do you have any evidence to support this belief?" the third asked, interested in what the Hyuga clan head had to say. "Hi, Hokage-sama," Hayashi replied. "He calls his fox Q-chan. That is the first thing that piqued my interest in the fox. Ask yourselves this: if he had heard about the Kyuubi from any villagers, he would have been told that the Kyuubi was a terrible creature. Therefore, why would he call his fox Q-chan after the world's most feared demon? Hayashi's incredible logic seemed to be getting him nowhere yet. I hypothesized that the Kyuubi has contacted him and has been teaching him things. For example, he continued, when I spoke with him, he was incredibly well behaved, and his vocabulary was well beyond what a 7-year-old boy should possess. That only means that the matrons at the orphanage have done a good job raising him, the third said absent-mindedly. Hokage-sama, I disagree. Hayashi was out or character. He rarely went against the Hokage, and when he did, it was usually for a very good reason. The third frowned slightly, but nodded, indicating that the Hyuga head should continue. Naruto has been living alone and fending for himself for at least 2 years. The statement absolutely bewildered the members of the council. He has already started to make some money from a smith named Darren. I spoke with him on my way here and he said that Naruto has been coming to him with scrap metal for over 1.5 years. That doesn't prove that he's not being influenced by the Kyuubi, or that he's been living on his own for as long as you say, the first council member to speak said. Unfazed by the man's interruption, Hayashi continued. I also checked into his medical records in the hospital. He has been there at least 3 times a month for the past 2 years, starting with his first admittance at the age of 5 when he was stabbed with a kunai, nearly completely through his chest. The ANBU patrol that found him and brought him to the hospital stated that he had lost a huge amount of blood, and yet he survived the incident. When no parents or guardians came to claim him after 3 days, he was released from ICU and allowed to recover in the normal wards. To whom did you talk to find out this information, Hayashi-san? The elderly Hokage asked, concerned. No one. It was all in his file, which is quite thick. Hayashi set a folder on the table everyone was sitting at. This is a copy of his medical record. He paused for a moment before continuing. It states on every single admittance to the hospital that he recovered in a matter of days, if not hours, no matter how grievously he was injured. He has a healing factor which I believe comes from the Kyuubi. This significantly supports your statement that he has been without a guardian for quite some time, but how does this show that the Kyuubi is benign? Sarutobi asked as he closed the folder slowly. If the Kyuubi truly meant harm to the boy or Konoha, don't you think something worse than Naruto being injured would have occurred? Hayashi asked the assembled village leaders. The fact that in all the police reports concerning Naruto state that no one has ever come forth claiming that he had harmed him in any way. With everyone in the village seemingly crying out for his death, no one has come forward with evidence such as a wound to show that Naruto attacked them. Everyone turned to Uchiha Fugaku. Is this true, Fugaku-san? The third asked. Hi Hokage-sama. The leader of the Uchiha clan and the Konoha police force replied. What Hayashi-san says is true. No complaints come to my mind. The man visibly resented having to support the Hyuga clan, but he couldn't lie about something like this. Also there is the account that Naruto's Kyuchan fought today. This revelation startled everyone in the room. My wife noted that it only attacked those who approached my daughter. The pale-eyed man paused for a fraction of a second to take a breath. It was the only one to severely wound the villagers. After the villagers fled, it didn't pursue them. Instead it stayed with Naruto and my wife and daughter. Its knowledge of how to nearly kill a human strikes me as odd for a normal fox. Do you know any more, Hayashi-san? The third asked. I'm afraid not, Hokage-sama. Hayashi replied with a slight bow. I didn't have the time. I would have liked to speak more with Naruto. Do you know where he is? The third asked. Hi, he's probably in the Hyuga estate as we speak, Hayashi replied. I invited him to live with us for a while. Tell him that I would like to speak with him tomorrow and for him to bring his fox, Sarutobi said. Hi Hokage-sama. Why would you consent to having a demon under your roof, Hayashi? A nameless council member exclaimed. Have you gone mad? Anger flashed through Hyuga Hayashi's eyes. No, it is you who are all mad. Do you know why Naruto defended my family? No one said a word. He told me that he couldn't forgive himself if someone who was kind to him got hurt on account of him. The boy has more guts than the whole lot of you combined. Hayashi didn't say another word as he stormed out of the room. Danzo scowled at the uncharacteristic actions of the Hyuga clan head. Standing up, he addressed the council. I believe that since Naruto contains a great power, the former root leader avoided mentioning the Kyuubi by name. And potential, he should be taught by the best Konoha has to offer in order for him to become a great shinobi. You wish to turn the boy into a living weapon, the Sandaime stated in a monotone, expressing his dislike for the crippled man. Not a weapon, but a person that can either end or prevent a war due to their power, like the Yondaime, for example. He trailed off, knowing that he would have support from the other council members. With all due respect, Danzo, the pup is barely 7 years old. Inuzuka-tsum, the head of the Inuzuka clan, replied. We don't know whether he wants to become a shinobi or not, and it isn't our place to force him into a life he may not like. I agree with some. Akimichi Chusa, the head of the Akimichi clan, added. We all have kids his age, and although they will probably want to become shinobi, we don't force them down that path. Other clan head nodded in agreement. But this is for the best of the village, Danzo said in protest, looking at several council members that normally supported him. He could even grow strong enough to claim the title of Hokage when he is old enough and ready for such a responsibility. It would greatly increase Konoha's reputation. Pray tell, Danzo, who did you have in mind to train the boy? Sarutobi asked suspiciously. I know that I may not be fit for shinobi duties, but I can still pass on my knowledge to younger generations. Danzo's cool voice enticed those who listened to agree with him, but to his dismay, many were not convinced. I think that those who learned under me in the past have benefited greatly from my tutelage. Yes, so much so that they are beaming with smiles and saying to everyone they can how great a teacher you are. Nara Shikaku, the head of the Nara clan, said sarcastically. Bullshit. While I will admit that you produced the third trailed off looking for the right word. Excellent shinobi, you do not try to let them keep their personalities. You strip them of their emotions, leaving them unfit for any other line of work. I agree with Hokage-sama. Aburaim Shibi, the head of the Aburaim clan, stated in an emotionless voice. Although we, Aburaims, think logically, we are not devoid of emotions. Someone without emotions cannot truly be a human because emotions define us as a species. His words backed the Hokage's position. Feelings also drive shinobi to strive their hardest to obtain their goal. He turned to Danzo before continuing. Danzo, how someone without unnecessary emotions can love Konoha enough to be willing to die for its safety? Is not love an emotion? Quite frankly, your trainees are failures of humans. The head of the Inuzuka clan added her 2 cents to the Aburaim's cause. Danzo scowled at their stances on the issue, as well as the lack of support he received. No one lifted so much as a finger to help him. I think that the majority of this council agrees that Naruto should be allowed to choose his own path. Sarutobi closed the case. However, if he does wish to become a shinobi of Konoha, I agree with you, Danzo, that he should be given training early on. The crippled root leader's mouth curled into a small smirk. However, I think that other ninja in Konoha should be the ones to train him. He needs to be able to live a fairly normal childhood to ensure that he grows up to become a stable person. He paused to see many clan leaders nodding in agreement. I think that should be done no matter what life he chooses, for the sake of keeping his seal stable and the beast inside him at bay until we learn more about the situation. The Nara clan had stated, taking advantage of Danzo's stated purpose of keeping Konoha as a whole safe. Since I will meet Naruto tomorrow, I will see what his choice is. In the meantime, I believe that we have some issues to discuss about the maintenance of the northern gate. The aged Hokage changed the direction of the meeting, getting it back onto its original agenda. Sarutobi sighed as he gazed through his crystal ball. He could see Hinata, Naruto, and the fox playing tag in one of the many Hyuga courtyards. From where the aged Hokage sat, he could see that Naruto's companion was anything but aggressive. It was currently playing tag as if it was a third child. It would tag its target by jumping up and licking them in the face. Watching the children play reminded Sarutobi of all the other villagers he had seen grow up as he watched over Konoha. When Hinata collapsed onto the soft, grassy lawn, Naruto and the fox sat down next to her. The fox lay down in between the humans and allowed them to scratch it. From the Hokage's point of view, the fox behaved just like one would expect a dog would. He sighed. Minato, if only you could see your son now. Early the next morning, Naruto was standing before the Hokage of Konoha. As requested by Sarutobi, Hayashi had escorted the 7-year-old blonde along with his fox to the Hokage's office. Good morning, Hayashi-san, Naruto-kun, the third said with a puff of smoke. Please have a seat. He motioned to 2 chairs in front of the great desk of the Hokage. The Kyuubi curled up around Naruto's feet and tucked her head under her tail, and seemingly fell asleep. Naruto, I wanted to speak with you about your past, the old man said. It has come to my attention that you haven't lived in the orphanage for many years. You mean the place with the mad people? Naruto asked. Did they treat you badly there? The Hokage asked sincerely. Hi, Naruto said. They didn't feed me much, didn't give me a bed or anything, and didn't let me go to any classes. Then they kicked me out when I was 5. And you lived on your own ever since, correct? The old man asked. Hi, Naruto answered. But Hayashi-sama has kindly given me a place to stay in the Hyuga clan estate. I see. When did you meet this fox of yours? Naruto looked hesitant for a moment, zoning completely out, and then looked at his companion with surprise written all over his face. You want me to tell them everything? He asked the demon fox at his feet. Are you crazy? Many would say so, she retorted with a snort. You will need to funnel more of my chakra when you summon me in a moment. That way I can speak to them. Naruto looked at the two men staring at him. He smiled weakly. This is going to look strange, but Kyuchan wants to tell you everything herself. Pray tell how a fox can do that? Hayashi asked, slightly annoyed by Naruto's words. She kinda lives in my head, Naruto said, earning him some intense stares from the two men. Almost instantly the Kyuubi disappeared in a cloud of chakra smoke, surprising everyone. A summoning creature? The Hokage asked skeptically. How did you sign a summoning contract? I don't know what you are talking about, but Kyuchan figured a way to make a body outside of me so that she could get food and stuff for me when I was hiding. Naruto's words didn't abate the men's fears. The young 7-year-old blonde clasped his hands into the hand seal the fox had taught him. Closing his eyes, he channeled the fox's chakra through the hand seal, and an instant later he heard a poof. He smelled the bitter chakra smoke and opened his eyes when it had finally dispersed. In the place of the cloud, the Kyuubi stood about 4 feet tall with two tails swinging behind her. Sarutobi and Hayashi gaped at the sight. The Kyuubi grinned wickedly before licking Naruto on the cheek. I finally can speak to other people, oh the joy. She spoke aloud, scaring the battle-hardened veteran shinobi stiff. She scratched behind her ears for a moment before sitting down next to Naruto, who rubbed the back of her neck. As you can see, I'm not here to fight, kill or harm anyone except those who wish me, and by extension Naruto, harm. Forgive me for being rude, but what the hell is going on here? Hayashi asked, actually losing his cool enough to swear. Hayashi-san, I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune, the one you fought all those years ago. The blood-red vixen grinned as both the Hokage and Hyuga head shuddered. I'm quite sorry for the misunderstanding. Kyuchan, why did you attack Konoha in the first place? Naruto asked. You never told me. And they don't trust you because of that. I would like to know why myself, Sarutobi stated. And I, Hayashi added. As well as the rest of Konoha. About a month before we met on the battlefield, I was living with my family in the forests of the west. She scratched her nose with a forepaw before continuing. I left for a morning run, and when I came back, everyone was slaughtered. A tear fell from her eye and splashed onto the wooden floor beneath them. Someone had come and killed them all. With their blood, they had written a message claiming that the leaf's hand will crush all those who oppose it. The whole area had the strange stench of a snake, but I dismissed it. I ran here fully intent on slaughtering every person in Konoha in revenge. But that is where everything fell apart. The demon fox lay down, placing her forepaws over her snout as if to cover her face. The first thing I noticed is that the shinobi from the leaf were absolute weaklings. No one capable of hurting, let alone slaughter my family, came out to meet me in combat. Then why did you keep on attacking? Sarutobi demanded. I don't know. The vixen moaned. Next thing I knew, I was being sucked into Naruto-kun's body. The man who sealed me away was in tears. He asked me to watch over the child since it was the only thing I could do. He said I was never going to escape. He was right, you are intimately bound to Naruto, Hayashi stated. If he lives, you live, if he dies, so do you. Is that why you have been helping him? In part, but also, I want to repay Konoha for my actions. Her words surprised the older men. Last night I snuck into the archives of the library, and I think I discovered who killed my family. Was it Orochimaru by any chance? Sarutobi asked. Yes, she said slowly. How did you know? Her demanding voice shook the entire room. He was my student, the third said slowly, earning a menacing growl from the Kyuubi. Her twin tails flew dangerously behind her. But he turned traitor nearly 10 years ago. The vixen's growl stopped abruptly. So he was the one who did it, she muttered. It is quite possible, Hayashi stated. He was one of the 3 legendary Sannin of Konoha. He is an incredibly powerful shinobi who doesn't like Konoha and also, probably most importantly, has the snake contract. That explains the stench of snakes, the Kyuubi said thoughtfully, as well as the specific mention of Konoha. From our spy network we have learned that he has been affiliated with a group of missing Nins that seek the tailed beasts for some reason. The Hokage added his 2 cents. That explains you as a target for the brutality. Yes, it does. The ancient fox trailed off and lay back next to Naruto deep in thought. Naruto, I was wondering what you plan to do in the future, Sarutobi said. Many powerful people in Konoha want to know if you wish to become a shinobi. I don't know, Naruto confessed. Last week I was living on my own with Kyuchan, and today I have a place to stay, for a little while at the very least. He added, looking at Hayashi. I'm just really unsure about what to do right now. Besides, I have to think about Kyuchan as well. His concern for the fox demon surprised Sarutobi. He thinks of practically everyone else before himself. He has the potential to become a fine shinobi and even Hokage. The battle-hardened shinobi smiled as he looked at the young blonde sitting before him. Would you like more time to think? He asked. Naruto nodded. Maybe a few hours? Would that be all right? He asked nervously. You don't need to rush something like this, Sarutobi said in a serious voice. Becoming a shinobi is hard work, and a dangerous life. Thank you, I'll keep that in mind, Naruto replied. Is there someplace where I could go to think? On top of the Hokage's mountain is a peaceful place that I sometimes go to think, the Hokage replied. People rarely go there, so you won't be disturbed. If you'd like, you can go there right now. Do you know how to get there? Hokage-sama, I've covered every single square inch of Konoha during my flights from villagers. The blonde smiled. I can get there. May I leave? Yes, you may. Naruto, stay safe. The blonde disappeared through the door milliseconds after the words left the Hokage's mouth. The Kyuubi shrank back to her original size and merged her tails to form a single tail and leapt after her host. What it would be to be young again. Hi, she murmured aloud after he watched the duo leave the room. It would be lovely, Sarutobi replied as he heard the Hyuga. But we have other things to discuss than what it would be like to be young again. Naruto's climb to the top of the Hokage's mountain was uneventful, which was surprising considering that he walked along a relatively well-used trail. The Kyuubi bounded through the underbrush parallel to the path, scaring all the small animals into their holes and burrows. The snapping of twigs was a firm reminder to the 7-year-old that his companion was still near him when he couldn't see her anymore. But being alone on the path did scare him a little. Whenever he was alone, bad things tended to happen. Villagers would attack him, or he would get lost. Naruto found his way to the top of the mountain and sat down on one of the heads. From his position, sitting on the top, he couldn't see what the face looked like, but the hair was spiky and stuck out at odd angles. For some reason he felt at home among the stone pillars, but he didn't know why, but his furry companion did. It's strange that he immediately goes to his father's head. She grinned slightly as she patted over to the blonde. Maybe he unconsciously knows that this is his family member, or maybe it just reminds him of his own hair. The Kyuubi sat down next to Naruto and placed her head on his lap like a faithful dog would do. Almost out of pure instinct, Naruto began to scratch behind her ears. Can you talk like you did in the Hokage's office? Yes, she stated clearly before continuing in his mind. But it's safer to communicate in here. In a shinobi village, you don't know who might be listening. Good idea, Naruto replied. We still have to think about our future. I mean, we could be ninja and beat the hell out of anyone who attacked us. But you heard what the old man said, the fox replied. A ninja's life is deadly and difficult. But where's the fun when there's no danger? Naruto queried. It helps us stay on our toes. But eventually something can happen and we might die, the demon fox said with worry and fear evident in her voice. Am I imagining things, or is the Kyuubi no Kitsune afraid? Naruto jabbed at the vixen's pride. She snapped her head up and forced the blonde to fall backward. Placing a paw on his chest, she growled at him. You foolish mortal. You think that I, the Kyuubi, would be afraid of anything? Said blonde mortal reached up and scratched behind her ears, earning him an annoyed growl. What should we do? Naruto asked aloud. I don't know what to do. You're still a kid, the fox said as she curled up on her host's chest. You aren't mature by a long shot, but you have to decide at some point what to do. You cannot go through life without a goal. Well, I'd like to help you in your revenge, but I don't know about anything else. Naruto trailed off. Should I try to become a ninja? Kit, whether I like it or not, I can only advise you as you make your decision, even though it affects both of us. The Kyuubi stated my advice is that you get ninja training so you'll be strong enough to protect yourself as well as the people you forged bonds with. So I should become a ninja to get strong to help defeat your enemies as well? Naruto asked. You'd also be able to protect those who you love, the vixen replied and then grinned. Besides, once you become a Konoha shinobi, no civilian or ninja can attack you without tremendous consequences. How do you know that? Naruto questioned, the fox curled up on his chest. With my tutelage you can grow incredibly strong, she answered with a touch of pride. If they attacked you, you could kill them and never have to worry about another attack. Everyone would fear you like crazy. But fear like that can be dangerous, the 7-year-old blonde reasoned. If they fear me too much, they'll attack me to rid Konoha of a terrible monster. I'd prefer that they accepted and liked me. You know that isn't very likely to happen, the demon fox replied. So I'll have to become the best shinobi in the world so that they'll accept me," Naruto declared, sitting up violently, causing the Kyuubi to tumble off her temporary bed and yelp in surprise. She quickly rolled to her feet and shook off the dust and dirt she had acquired from her tumble. The Kyuubi, like practically every cogent female regardless of species, prided herself in how well kept her appearance was. Irritably, she scratched her side with a hind leg, trying to remove the last vestiges of dust and dirt from her brilliant red coat. "An admirable goal, but next time you wish to do something like that, please, for the love of Kami, warn me beforehand," she grumbled, clearly irritated and annoyed by the young blonde's action. "Should we head back to the Hokage's office?" Naruto asked his red companion. "I like it here," the vixen replied as she jumped to the top of a spike, rebounding off of several others to give herself height and speed. "If they need to talk to us, they know where we are and can come get us." She curled up and tucked her nose under her bushy tail. Naruto walked to the same stone spike that the Kyuubi lay upon and leaned against it. He let his feet slide out from under him, slipping himself into a sitting position with his back leaning against the cool stone. He gazed out through the stone spikes and looked at Konoha bustling with life. "This sure is peaceful," he said as he sat there. The fox didn't reply. She was too caught up absorbing the sun's rays to hear the blonde's thoughts. Hyuga Hayashi sat in front of the Saname Hokage, or Konoha. The village leader filled him in on the happenings of the council meeting the night previous after he left the meeting. "So the Nara, Aburame, Inuzuka and Akimichi clans support Naruto?" the pale-eyed man asked. "It appears that way." Sarutobi sighed and fingered his pipe. "But as usual, Danzo wants to turn Naruto into a living weapon. He wanted to train him, but the other councilmen shot him down." "What were you considering if Naruto was to choose the life of a shinobi?" Hayashi asked. "That several jounin and a chunin train him jointly," the third replied. "Hatake Kakashi just came out of the ANBU Black Ops. A training mission could help him adjust to normal shinobi life." "Who else?" Hayashi asked. "You and your clan could help him with his chakra control," Sarutobi stated. "Kakashi would be ninjutsu. A chunin named Yuhi Kurenai who is a genjutsu specialist can train him in genjutsu, and Guy is an obvious for taijutsu." The Hokage finished reading a list in his hands. "With tutors like those, he wouldn't have a choice to become an excellent shinobi," Hayashi stated. "Indeed," Sarutobi replied. "He'd be a force to be reckoned with just like his father." The Hokage's eyes shot wide open when he realized what he had just slipped out. "You knew his parents?" Hayashi asked. The Hokage sighed and rubbed his temples. "Yes," he admitted, "and I know for a fact that they are both dead." "Who were they?" Hayashi demanded. Sarutobi didn't respond right away. Even without the Byakugan, Hayashi could see through the Hokage's eyes that he was thinking deeply. Without saying a word, the third stood up and stepped out from behind his desk. Walking to a bookcase, he scanned the titles until he found what he was looking for. Placing a finger on the top of one spine, he gently pulled the book out and returned to his chair. "What I am about to show you is an S-class secret." He paused. "After I show this to you, only you, myself and Jiraiya will know this." He opened the book and folded out several pages. Stretching across them was an intricate seal. On an attached page was a simple black box with an old, brown streak of blood inside it. "That," Sarutobi said to the Hyuga clan head, "is my blood. This is a blood seal, similar to a summoning contract, but it is a secure storage seal." "This is amazingly complicated," Hayashi stated as he examined the seal. "Did Minato design this?" "No. Jiraiya constructed it after Minato's death to store this document," the third answered. "Jiraiya has his own copy of the seal and document under his protection." "Is it possible for me to unseal the document if I were to place my blood here?" Hayashi asked, indicating the area with the Hokage's blood. "I'm not a seal master like Jiraiya, but I would assume so," the Saname answered as he bit his thumb and smeared it across the seal, while channeling his chakra through it. There was a cloud of bitter-tasting chakra smoke that signified the appearance of the item that was unsealed. When the cloud dispersed a second later, Sarutobi quickly handed an official-looking document to Hayashi, whose eyes widened as he saw the names of Naruto's parents. "Minato, your own son. Why would you do that to your own son?" Hayashi demanded silently. With the aid of the Byakugan, Hyuga Hayashi was able to locate Naruto sitting atop the fourth's head. A fitting place to think about his future considering who he is. The Hyuga clan leader, though, to himself. "I wonder if Naruto knows himself." After all, the Kyuubi heard Minato's last words between father and son. Hayashi strode over to the blond boy sleeping silently, and found him fast asleep. Do you want me to wake him up? The red vixen asked from her perch. Hayashi turned his head upwards to see the fox lying on top of the stone Naruto was sleeping against. That would be appreciated, Hayashi replied, still extremely wary of the demon fox. Without another word, the fox stood up and nimbly stretched atop the stone hair of the fourth. When she was done waking up her muscles, she gripped the stone with her claws and slid down the side, her claws slowing her descent. She landed, belly first, on Naruto's head and leaned over to lick his face. After a moment of licking, Naruto was awake. Irritated by the wet awakening, he reached up and pulled the Kyuubi from her position on his head. Holding her out in front of him at eye level, he scowled while she gave him a toothy grin. I should just turn you into a hat, he stated. She squirmed a little in his grip. You felt quite comfy there. Then maybe I should just make a habit of lying on your head while you walk around Konoha, she replied with a grin. Naruto sighed and set her on the ground. He was about to ask her why she woke him up, but he spotted Hayashi standing a few meters away. I suppose that you asked her to wake me up, he stated as he yawned and stretched his sleepy limbs. I offered. The Kyuubi spoke up. Should have known, Naruto muttered. Why did you come here? He asked. My meeting with Hokage-sama finished, so I came looking for you, Hayashi replied. I don't mean to rush you or anything, but have you made any decisions about your future? Hi, Naruto replied with the enthusiasm that only a 7-year-old could muster. I want to become the best shinobi in the world so that the villagers will acknowledge me. Is that your reason, Naruto? Hayashi asked. Not quite, Naruto answered, surprising Hayashi some. I want to grow strong enough to protect those who get close to me. I also want to help Q-chan get revenge for her family. Well, what do you say, shall we go tell Hokage-sama? Hayashi asked, turning to walk down the path towards Konoha. All right. Naruto chirped and followed the man while the Kyuubi pranced around their heels. For the second time in just as many days, Naruto stood before the Sandaime Hokage of Konoha, having decided to wait until morning to inform the leader of his decision. Naruto had accompanied Hayashi back to the Hyuga clan estate. Now he was waiting to hear the Hokage's response to his decision. Are you sure about this? The third asked. Hi, I thought over everything carefully, Naruto replied. And knowing full well that a shinobi's life is dangerous, you want to become one, the village's leader stated. Yes, Naruto replied. I want to get strong so that I can help those I care about, Naruto replied, pulling the Kyuubi, who was sitting on his lap, closer to him. She kindly nuzzled his arm, her whiskers tickling him slightly. All right, then you shall be trained to become one of the best Konoha shinobi, Sarutobi declared. I have arranged for several tutors. He trained off when the door opened. All three occupants of the room looked to see an ANBU member standing in the doorway. I'm sorry to interrupt, Hokage-sama, but Uchiha Itachi is here to see you. The ANBU paused a moment. He said it was important. Very well. The Hokage sighed. Hayashi-san, Naruto-kun, would please wait outside for a moment. This shouldn't take too long, but I'm afraid that this is important. Understood, Hokage-sama? Hayashi stated smoothly. Come, Naruto. We will wait outside. Thank you, Sarutobi replied as he stood up to see them out of the room. As they exited the Hokage's office, a raven-haired teenager entered the office and closed the door, locking it. That somewhat made the Hyuga clan head uneasy. He had heard some rather unpleasant rumors about the Uchiha clan. Flashback, unknown amount of time, probably a year or so. Hayashi-sama, a branch member said respectfully as he bowed low before his clan head. Yes? Hayashi replied. What is it? As instructed, I have been gathering information on the Uchiha clan, the branch member stated. You were right to be worried, Hayashi-sama, they're up to something. Care to elaborate? Hayashi asked, raising an eyebrow. There isn't much to report, I'm afraid. The Uchiha are being incredibly secretive about something, and I cannot find out what. He looked slightly downcast. There are certain times when all the Uchiha ninja disappear into the clan estate and do not return to regular duties for at least an hour. Anything else? Hayashi prompted. Every minute detail can lead to major discoveries. Hi, Hayashi-sama. The branch member replied respectfully. I've heard whispers mentioning Hokage-sama after each. Well, I guess meeting would be the best word for this. Hokage-sama might be targeted in whatever the Uchiha are planning. That would make sense, Hayashi murmured. Thank you for your services. I may need to call upon you to speak with Hokage-sama about this matter, so don't die. Hi, the subservient man replied before disappearing out the door. Troublesome. End flashback. After what seemed like 15 minutes, the office door opened and the third motioned for Hayashi and Naruto, with the Kyuubi, to enter. Uchiha Itachi stood smartly at the corner of the Hokage's great wooden desk, waiting for the village leader to return to his seat, which he did as Naruto and Hayashi stood in front of it. The Sandaime Hokage rubbed his temples with a sigh, trying to relieve his headache, but no amount of rubbing would help. Itachi-san has revealed some disturbing facts about the Uchiha clan. Sarutobi started. Hayashi-san, we'll talk about them later, but now, we need to talk about Naruto's training. Are we going to go through with the schedule we mapped out yesterday? Hayashi asked. Not exactly. Itachi-san will take Kakashi's place. At the Hokage's words, the Kyuubi prowled over to Itachi and began to sniff him over. After several tense seconds, the red fox bobbed her head in approval and everyone, who suddenly found themselves holding their breaths, sighed ever so slightly with relief. He's acceptable, the vixen stated as she sat down next to Naruto. Itachi for once in his life was caught off guard. The fox just spoke. Almost immediately his onyx eyes faded to the fully matured first stage of the Sharingan. Author's note: this isn't the Mangekyo Sharingan, just the 3-koma version of the normal one. What the hell? He swore explosively as he jumped back, pulled out a kunai, and held it in a neutral stance. He could either attack or defend in a moment's notice. It's quite alright, Itachi-san, the Kyuubi isn't going to attack you. The Hokage's words didn't assuage Itachi's fears. Are you telling me that the Kyuubi is out of its seal? Itachi demanded, Sharingan flashing. Brat, for your information, I am not in it. I'm a demon, and more importantly a demon with a heart. Her words were directed directly towards Itachi, who froze at the sound of her voice again. I don't wish you or any of Konoha any harm. The bastard Orochimaru set me up to attack Konoha. He tricked me and this is where it got me. Also, I have not escaped the damnable seal, but have merely created a body which I control. As if to prove her point, she grew about a foot taller at the shoulder, making her the size of a retriever. All my chakra is sealed within Naruto-kun, and he can regulate the amount which I have at my disposal. Naruto still holds the leash, but it is a little larger than it used to be. Her words offered the Uchiha prodigy a little comfort. So I'm to train Naruto? Itachi asked, slightly nervous at the prospect of spending time with the strongest demon in existence. Who could blame him? He was still in his early teens and could still remember the image of a huge nine-tailed fox thrashing the land outside Konoha. Itachi closed his eyes for a moment, while Sarutobi replied, I understand that you are hesitant about being around the Kyuubi. In the eyes of the village, Itachi's eyes flashed open in surprise at the Kyuubi's gender, has become even worse than what actually happened. The demon has been demonized, as oxymoronic as that sounds. I was not aware that the Kyuubi no Kitsune was a she, Itachi stated. Not many are, said Vixen replied. You may call me Kyuubi-san. And don't get any ideas, I hate being called Kyuubi-sama by fools who think that demons can be flattered away with mere human words. Dang, Naruto said out of the blue. Except you, Naruto-kun. She nuzzled his leg affectionately. Clearly her time spent sealed within the boy altered her opinion of the blonde. Itachi, Naruto will have other teachers before he comes to you. He has to learn the basics first. The wise Hokage leaned his chin against a fist. Keep me informed. You are dismissed. Hi. Itachi snapped to attention smartly before exiting the room quickly. When he closed the door, Naruto became the center of attention. So what am I going to learn first? He asked hungrily. Nothing advanced before you are deemed ready for difficult jutsus, Sarutobi stated. Naruto pouted but had the sense to not say anything. Most advanced jutsus will kill the user if not properly handled, Hayashi stated. It's best for you if you wait until you can manage simpler tasks before starting more advanced ones. Everything is based on a previous stage of training, Sarutobi stated. More than likely, you won't get to high-level techniques before you enter the academy. Why do I have to go there? Naruto asked. With all the training I'm going to receive, why should I relearn the basics? The blonde boy almost immediately regretted asking the question. Both the Hokage's and Hayashi's faces grew stern. Naruto, what is the difference between what yours will be and the academy? The Sandaime waited for Naruto's answer, but the boy didn't reply immediately like the wrinkled leader expected. All the more evidence to point to the fact that Naruto was different than any other child his age. There will be other students? Naruto guessed. Is that an answer or a question? Sarutobi asked with a smirk, which was hidden behind his hands clasped in front of him. My answer, Naruto replied simply. What does that have to do with anything? Is it important? Do you think that a shinobi is sent out on missions all alone without any support? The Sandaime asked the blonde. Well, I dunno. Naruto's unintelligent response earned coughing laugh from the Kyuubi. Every ninja that Konoha produces has been on a genin squad. Hayashi explained to Naruto. Teamwork is an important part of being a shinobi. Teams usually are composed of ninja whose skill sets complement each other's. So do these teams stick together after they aren't genin? Naruto asked. Yes, some do if they are extremely effective as a team, Sarutobi replied. Your teammates become your closest friends and you usually stay in contact with each other for the rest of your lives. Hokage-sama, did you stay with your genin team for a long time? Naruto asked. I'd rather that you didn't call me such a formal name all the time, Sarutobi replied. But yes, I still maintain close connections, sometimes strained, but close nonetheless with my teammates, the Hokage stated. Who are they, Gigi? Naruto asked. Naruto, show some proper respect for the Hokage, Hayashi said coldly, but the Sandaime only chuckled. It's alright, Hayashi-san, he replied. It's rather refreshing to be called something like that. But the disrespect Hayashi trailed off, realizing he wasn't going to sway either the Hokage's or Naruto's mind about the name. Fine. If that is what you wish, Sarutobi-sama. We'll have to work on deformalizing you later, but right now we need to talk about Naruto's training, Sarutobi stated, rescuing the meeting from the tangent. So what am I going to learn first, Gigi? Naruto asked excitedly, literally vibrating in his seat. Chakra control and physical stamina, Sarutobi replied and continued when he saw Naruto pout. You will be doing exercise to not only get your body ready, but also increase your chakra capacity so you can learn advanced ninjutsu and genjutsu later. Naruto perked up at the thought of learning powerful techniques. Why can't I just use Kyuchan's chakra? Naruto asked. Your body won't be able to circulate my chakra unless you have a larger than normal chakra capacity for it to circulate within, the Kyuubi stated and then scratched her side. There also is a possibility that an enemy could seal her chakra away, and then you wouldn't be able to use your normal techniques and styles, Sarutobi replied. By increasing your reserves and control, you will ready your body and mind for more training. You will be learning these things from me while I also teach Hinata, Hayashi stated. Naruto smiled. Thank you? The blonde thanked the white-eyed man. You will learn taijutsu from a jounin by the name of Guy, the Hokage stated. He is a taijutsu specialist and can teach you the art of hand-to-hand combat. Then there is Uchiha Itachi, whom you just met a few minutes ago, Sarutobi continued. He is probably the second best ninjutsu expert as well as one of the stealthiest ninja in Konoha. Who's the best ninjutsu expert? Naruto asked. Me, Sarutobi replied. But unfortunately I don't have the free time to train you. However, I will probably take the liberty of teaching you a few jutsus along the way. Oh, I see, Naruto replied somewhat subdued. But I'll make sure that you teach me something, Gigi. Okay then, moving on, you will learn genjutsu from a chunin by the name of Yuhi Kurenai, Sarutobi continued. Despite her lower status, she is Konoha's best genjutsu user. Is that everything? Naruto asked. By that time, you should be a genin and going on missions with a team of your own, the Sandaime answered smoothly. What if I go faster than that schedule? Naruto asked. We'll worry about that when we get there, Sarutobi replied with a smile. Is there anything else to discuss? Hayashi asked. I don't wish to waste your valuable time, Sarutobi-sama. Well, unfortunately paperwork calls, the Hokage replied. If there is nothing else to discuss, then you are dismissed. He stood up and walked his two guests to the door before returning to his desk and starting on the mountain of paperwork rushed in by his secretary. What I wouldn't give for help doing this. Naruto's trip through the village was a little better than his first entrance with Hinata and her mother. Traveling with a clan head, especially a renowned clan like the Hyuga, defiantly had its advantages. Everywhere they went, whispers followed them like wildfire. He's mad, I tell you. The demon must have brainwashed him. There's no way the Hyuga would stoop so low. First that damn fox, now the Hyuga? The demon must be getting around the fourth seal, we're dead if he stays alive. That last statement, except the last part, was truer than the person who uttered it knew. The Kyuubi snickered but ended up sounding like she was trying to cough something up. Smooth, Naruto commented sarcastically, only piquing the fox's irritation. Can it, Blondie? She replied, most annoyed, within the safety of Naruto's head. It would not be good if the villagers heard her talking aloud. It would probably start the biggest riot/mob beating in the history of the hidden village. I'd like to see you try in my situation. This body isn't exactly the best. Can't you just change your body size and stuff? Naruto asked. I saw you do it in Gigi's office, so why can't you change it so you can snicker properly? The demon fox was silent. Naruto actually had a point. You're getting too smart for your own damn good. You know that? It's your own damn fault. Naruto retorted. You're the one who taught me. That irritated the Kyuubi no Kitsune too much. With a growl, she nipped Naruto's butt, or rather where his butt had been when she had leapt. Naruto was currently running just beyond her reach in circles around Hyuga. I'll get you if it's the last thing I do. You are so dead. I know if I died, wouldn't you as well? Naruto asked. If you want to commit suicide, please don't bring me into the situation. Go hide in a corner and poof back inside me. You will pay, the snarling vixen declared in between jumps that narrowly missed Naruto's bottom. Ooh! Naruto exclaimed. So close. I think I felt something that time. Unfortunately for Naruto, his butt soon became tenderized when he entered the Hyuga clan estate. The Kyuubi grew to her maximum size for her current chakra allowance, and tackled Naruto with ease. Resting on top of Naruto, the blood-red fox grinned savagely, revealing a fine set of razor-sharp teeth. Got you! She growled softly yet happily into the blonde's ear. Naruto grinned and tried to wrap his arms around the vixen's neck, but found he couldn't. 7-year-old children don't have very long arms, and the full-size Kyuubi's neck was fairly large. Said fox shrank her form until Naruto could comfortably wrap his arms around her neck. With a seemingly practiced move, the Kyuubi gripped the scruff of Naruto's clothes in her powerful jaws and gently placed him on her back. Once again wrapping his arms around her neck, Naruto secured himself and grinned as the Kyuubi started to sniff the ground searching for a scent. With her enhanced nose, she quickly found a scent she wanted to follow and began to carefully follow it, constantly searching for her prey. Naruto grinned as he became caught up in the hunt. Unconsciously, he was picking up on the ways the large fox tried to hide her presence, which was quite difficult considering her bulk, but somehow she managed to pad stealthily through the hallways of the clan estate until she suddenly stopped and crouched behind one intersection. Naruto felt her muscles tense as if she was going to pounce on something. Silently half climbing and half sliding off the vixen, Naruto landed on the floor with a low thump and peered around the corner warily. He saw Hinata and her mother walking down the hall and threw himself out of their view. He passed the Kyuubi and found her shrinking her size down to normal. To say the least, Hinata didn't know what in the world hit her. One moment she was walking with her Okasan, the next she was laying on her back with a small weight on her stomach. Daring herself to open her eyes, she saw the blood-red fox sitting on her. Quickly the Kyuubi licked Hinata's cheek. Hey Hinata-chan, I think that Q-chan likes you, Naruto said with a foxy grin on his face, with one hand scratching the back of his head. Ah really? Hinata asked weakly as the vixen patted over to Naruto's legs. She was blushing slightly and quickly invented several shades of red as Naruto stuck out his hand, offering to help her up. Quick as a flash, she used his help to stand up and then speared at her mother's side, slightly hiding behind on leg. Hey Hinata-chan, you feeling alright? Naruto asked innocently. Your face looks a little flush. Turning to Hinata's mother when the girl his age didn't reply and only grew redder. Is Hinata-chan sick? No, she isn't, the kind woman replied. Maybe you two can go outside and play with Q-chan? Okay. Naruto grabbed Hinata's hand and pulled her down the hall towards the closest door to the grounds so they could play. The Kyuubi pranced down the hall after them with a grin on her face. Come on Hinata, let's go play. Hinata's mother smiled as she watched the two 7-year-olds travel down the hallway and disappear out the door. So much energy, how nice it would be to be that young again. Continuing down the path she was following before the foxy interruption, she began to unconsciously rub her belly. Catching herself, she started to sweat just a little. The last time she had done that, Hinata was still inside her womb. Maybe she should gander on over to the hospital later on. Danzo was mad. No, he was more than mad, he was furious. The damned Sandame had completely ignored his request to train the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. Konoha needed that boy's strength for protection. It didn't matter what was sacrificed as long as Konoha was safe from any enemy. The crippled man limped as fast as he could down a long set of winding stairs. Below Konoha, there was a literal maze of tunnels. Instead of disbanding Route like he had been ordered, Danzo had simply relocated it into this secret discovery of his. No one would be able to find it. It was secure, and as long as he ran Route, Konoha would be safe as well. He produced a key from the depths of his robes and inserted it into a crack in the stone wall. He turned it with a firm hand and then replaced it. Proceeding down the stairs, he took his first left and then hobbled up a flight of stairs. He closed his eyes as he passed through a strong genjutsu shield and emerged on the other side in a bustling root command center. Smiling, he thought up a brilliant plan to train one Uzumaki Naruto. Time skip of a month. 1 month was a long time for Naruto. In that time, he had learned the basics of chakra control from Hyuga Hayashi as he trained his only daughter, Hinata. While he was a fast learner and quick to pick up techniques like tree walking, Hinata wasn't so fast. As a result, Naruto found himself doing running errands around the Hyuga clan estate. Although boring, it was still training and he was being useful to the clan at the same time, a win-win scenario in Naruto's eyes. Naruto also trained with the nine-tailed fox when Hayashi had to attend meetings or deal with village business. He picked up the basics of stealth and soon found it easier to move about Konoha while moving in non-conspicuous ways. As he continued to improve, he gathered the courage to brave the hidden village alone without any company. He found it thrilling when people didn't stare at him with hatred or tried to kill him. In fact, he felt relieved that they didn't pay any attention to him. He was able to collect broken kunai and shuriken discarded among the training fields and sell them to Darren, bringing in some money that he could use for things other than food and essentials that were provided for by the Hyuga clan. As soon as he had enough money, Naruto treated himself to a bowl of ramen from the stand he had visited with Hinata and her mother, the first day they had met. He enjoyed the flavor and filling qualities of the food, and was now visiting there at least once a day. Even though Hinata took longer to learn chakra control, she was much better than Naruto. Hayashi praised her efficiency and took pride in teaching her. That teaching probably saved her life. A week before, some representatives from Kyuubi had visited Konoha to sign a peace agreement to end the war between the hidden villages. Flashback. Hinata woke up in the middle of the night. Something didn't seem right. She had been dreaming contently when suddenly she woke up gasping for breath. She was nervous. Nothing looked out of order in her room as she scanned it with her pale lavender eyes. Clasping her hands together in a generic hand seal, she activated her bloodline limit, the Byakugan. Under its careful gaze, nothing could be hidden, and what it revealed startled her. Standing above her with his feet attached to the wall with chakra, stood a ninja. He held a burlap sack in one hand and with the other, he reached to grab the Hyuga heiress. But he never had the chance to touch the frightened girl. With her body acting by instinct, she rolled off her bed with a thump and ran to her door, only to find the same ninja blocking her path. Without pausing or hesitating, she ran through his legs and kicked him where they joined with as much force as her small body could muster. Not needing to turn her head to see the ninja fall to the ground withering in agony due to her bloodline limit, she threw open her door and simply screamed. If you were watching the Hyuga estate from the outside, the rooms around Hinata suddenly burst with light. However, on the far side of the housing, a huge explosion reverberated through Konoha. Hyuga Hizashi burst from his room at the same time his twin brother did from his respective room. They looked at each other. I'll look after Hinata. You find out what caused that explosion. Hizashi nodded, obeyed his brother's order and dashed down the halls in the opposite direction than Hayashi. Both brothers cursed silently as they activated their Byakugan. Whoever had the guts to attack the Hyuga clan was either insane or incredibly strong. Hayashi found his daughter struggling to get free from a ninja dressed from head to toe in black. On the ground there was a burlap sack discarded as the ninja struggled to subdue Hinata. Closing the distance between in a fraction of a second, Hayashi delivered a well-placed gentle fist blow to the man's chest, knocking him out, saving his daughter. Hinata clamped to her father with desperation, seeking protection. With one hand reassuring his daughter, Hayashi used his other hand to remove the ninja's face mask. Immediately he recognized one of the Kyuubi delegates that he had met earlier that day. Checking to make sure the man's vitals were stable, he marveled at how many bruises, cuts and scrapes, and bites Hinata had given the man. He also saw severe damage to the man's crotch and quickly deactivated his bloodline limit as other members of the Hyuga clan arrived on scene. Meanwhile, Hizashi arrived at the site of the explosion to find Naruto wreathed in a flowing, red chakra shaped like a fox with a single tail. At his feet was a body dressed completely in black. Or at least he was when he first came into the blonde's room. At the moment the ninja was near death with half of his clothes torn off, exposing white skin beneath. Upon further inspection, Hizashi saw that the intruder was a female with a rather large chakra network. Hayashi's twin's inspection was interrupted when the chakra surrounding Naruto swirled into his stomach. The blonde 7-year-old promptly fell down as if he was a puppet whose strings had just been severed. With the speed of a seasoned Konoha shinobi, Hizashi caught the unconscious boy before he had the chance to slam into the ground. After setting Naruto on the broken floor carefully, Hizashi continued to inspect the female intruder. He removed her mask and found himself looking at the kunoichi in awe. This was none other than Niyujito, Junchuriki of the two-tailed cat, the Nibi. No, this has to be a mistake. Hisashi thought to himself. There was no way Kyuubi would send her after Naruto unless they knew about the Kyuubi. And during a peace talk too, things just got a lot more complicated. And it wasn't pretty. Naruto and Hinata stood side by side concentrating on manipulating their chakra. On each of their foreheads a leaf sat as if glued in place. In reality, they were held on with chakra. The leaf exercise to which the two 7-year-olds were being subjected to was standard genin training. To be able to successfully complete the training exercise at their age was quite a feat. Hayashi was practically glowing with pride when he saw his daughter training hard as he passed the door to the Hyuga training hall. Oh, did I mention they were hanging upside down from the ceiling? With chakra gluing them to the ceiling, the leaf exercise became even more complicated. While having to regulate the flow of chakra in their feet, which is the hardest place to manipulate the body's energy, they had to gently hold a leaf to their forehead. The contrast of lots of chakra to hold the pair to the ceiling, to the minimal amount of chakra the two could manipulate, made the trial Naruto and Hinata even harder. Hinata's membership of the Hyuga clan meant that she had an easier time manipulating her chakra. For centuries the Hyuga had used chakra manipulation as their main mode of attack, thus it became a hereditary trait to be able to easily manipulate their chakra. On the other hand, Naruto had only managed to attain a comparable level of chakra control through intense training. His enhanced chakra reservoirs that he received from the Kyuubi made controlling his chakra extremely difficult. Hinata-chan? Naruto broke the silence for the first time in an hour of training. Hi. Hinata stuttered. What is it? Ano, you want to take a break? Naruto asked. I could use something to drink and maybe a bowl or 3 of ramen. Hinata giggled as Naruto's eyes dimmed and he started to drool at the thought or ramen. He was rudely disturbed when some drool fell down his nose. Remember, he was hanging upside down. His choking threw his concentration and control out the window. First his leaf fell off his head. After frantically trying to catch it as it fluttered farther away, his feet began to unglue from the high ceiling. Naruto cried out as he felt himself detach from the ceiling, seemingly hang in midair for a split second, and then plummet to the floor below. Landing with a sickening crunch, a stunned Jinchuriki lay in a heap mumbling rubbish about ramen in a dreamy voice. And Naruto-kun? Hinata called out uncertainly. When he didn't respond, the windows on the building rattled when Hinata shouted, Naruto-kun. Still with enough sense to walk down the walls and reorient herself with the floor sans a crash, Hinata rushed to the blonde's side. After a minute of poking and prodding a motionless Naruto, the blonde sat up, rather shakily, but under his own power. Ow! Naruto moaned as he rubbed an already rising bump on the back of his head. Stupid harder than rock floor. I'm glad that you're alright and Naruto-kun, Hinata said with a slight blush. Ano, Hinata-chan, I like it better when you don't stutter, Naruto stated while Hinata blushed even more. You sound cutter when you talk normally. She's got it for you bad, Kit. The red vixen snickered as she peeked through the doorway. And you don't even notice how cute. Hi. Hinata replied, blushing furiously, producing colors or red that painters only dreamed of. I'll try harder. Great! Naruto exclaimed. Let's go get something to drink. I'm parched. Okay. Hinata said as she stood up as composed as she could, even thought she was blushing like crazy. The pair exited the training hall and headed to the dining facilities for the clan. The Hyuga clan estate was a miniature village on its own. It had houses for families, training facilities, dining facilities, and even a general store where clan members could purchase basic necessities with either prepaid balances or with cash on the spot. With his Byakugan activated, Hayashi could watch his daughter and Naruto stroll into the dining hall. While Naruto was a wild bundle of energy, Hinata was constantly a picture of utmost control, typical for a Hyuga. To say that he enjoyed watching them would be an understatement. In contrast to doing paperwork, the seeming scourge of every leader, watching his daughter train exhaustively was always enjoyable. It was nice to know that at such a young age, his daughter was already showing signs of the maturity needed to lead the Hyuga clan. Having one's destiny set at birth always rubbed against both Hayashi's and Hisashi's grain in every possible manner. They were a prime example of the injustices done by past clan leaders. They were twins, and the only reason Hayashi was now the clan head was because he was born first. Because of that, his brother had been branded with the caged bird's seal. With Niji being born a year before Hinata, Hayashi got to experience the full force of the elders' influence over the matter of branding Niji with the seal. Hayashi refused while the elders insisted on the matter. It was tradition, they claimed, and it couldn't be broken. It wasn't until Hayashi threatened those with the seals with activation and those without the seal with branding that he finally was able to ensure little Niji's freedom from his father's fate. For that, he had his brother's unwavering support, which Hayashi greatly appreciated. Glaring at his paperwork with the Byakugan, simply willing the pile of paper to disappear, Hayashi wearily released his bloodline limit and started to work on the first document. It was a message from the Hokage's office calling for a meeting of the council to discuss the recent incident with Kumo. Troublesome. Niji and I-san. Hinata cried out as she entered the dining hall and spotted her older cousin sitting all alone. The entire dining hall was empty save some kitchen staff who were cooking for the noontime meal. Hinata-sama. Niji replied respectfully. Naruto-san. What brings you here now? The slightly older Hyuga asked. We just finished a training session, so we came to get something to drink. Naruto replied for the two of them. I thought you wanted our ramen too, Hinata stated with many fewer stutters than earlier. Well, I only get it from that stand near the Hokage's tower. Naruto replied. They're the best. He grinned as if he was embarrassed. And I kind of forgot I don't have any money left over from my last scrap hunting. He scraped the back of his head out of habit but quickly howled in pain as he bumped the spot where he had landed just a few minutes earlier. After rushing into the kitchen, the blonde boy returned a minute later holding a tray with 2 light sandwiches, 2 tall glasses of water, and holding a pack of ice to the back of his head. Hinata had sat down next to Niji, so Naruto sat across from the cousins muttering about high ceilings. After removing a sandwich and a glass for himself, he gently slid the tray over to Hinata so she could use it as a placemat. Munching happily, Naruto saw that Hinata was constantly staring at him. Whenever he caught the heiress, she would immediately look down, blush and poke her index fingers together. Q-chan, why does she do that? Naruto asked innocently. Can't tell. The nine-tailed demon replied. It's a secret. Nani? Naruto exclaimed, nearly deafening the fox. You're a part of me, how can you hold something like that a secret from me? Mentally, Naruto sniffed, and gave the red vixen a taste of his puppy eyes. Damn those eyes, I can't tell you because Hinata will tell you in time. The Kyuubi replied, trying to resist Naruto's puppy eyes. It would ruin the moment for her if I told you now. Do you want to hurt Hinata's feelings? No, Naruto retorted. Of course not, fine, I'll wait for her to tell me. But it's time for you to come out. Under the table, Naruto quickly formed the seals needed to give his tenant a body to use. When the jutsu was complete, a small, red fox sat in front of Naruto's feet. There was no smoke or noise as she appeared, only indicating that Naruto's control was gaining better control of his chakra and the jutsu. Summoning the Kyuubi at least 2 or 3 times an hour constantly improved his mastery of the jutsu. He had read that if a ninjutsu or genjutsu is used often enough and a lot, the user will gradually gain the ability to use the techniques without hand signs. The Kyuubi nipped Naruto's shin and proceeded to climb up the blonde's leg, side, and chair until she sat on the table looking content. Hinata grabbed the fox without hesitation and pulled the vixen onto her lap, where she immediately began scratching the Kyuubi behind her ears. The red fox immediately relaxed and began to purr like a cat. Niji scoffed at the Kyuubi's response while Hinata cooed. Q-chan, you traitor! Naruto said with a sniffle, causing the atmosphere to lighten. Niji smirked while Hinata giggled and scratched the vixen more. Ah. A little more to the left. Hinata obliged but stopped short and screamed. She talked. She talked. Both Niji and Hinata literally jumped out of their seats and settled into gentle fist stances. Of course she does, Naruto stated, sweating slightly, trying to figure out how to get out of the situation. She isn't really a fox, is she? Niji stated, trying to figure out what the hell the red fox sitting in front of him was. Gaki, I'm insulted. She stuck her nose into the air while Naruto slumped in his seat. I'm the queen of foxes. Normally I look like this. She morphed into a miniature 9-tailed fox before continuing. But I'm sure you can imagine what people would do if they saw me like this. So you are the Kyuubi no Kitsune? Hinata asked, obviously scared. Is that how you knew how to fight? Ding! 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 Give the vixen a cookie, the Kyuubi replied. You got it, sister. Everyone, and I mean everyone, sweat dropped at the Fox Queen's reply. Q-chan, quit acting all weird, Naruto moaned as he sat face down on the table. Hayashi was about to finish his paperwork for the day when he felt a pulse of demon chakra. It was close but weak. So weak, it was almost like he was just imagining things. He looked at the final document. Why not put it off and investigate? Smiling at the excuse he had just made for himself, he stood up and stretched quickly. Sitting in a chair for hours on end didn't do any good for his muscles. Setting his face in a neutral expression, he swept out of his office and headed towards the dining facilities where he felt the pulse. He arrived at the door to see Naruto try to grab the Kyuubi, who skillfully evaded the blonde's efforts. Both Hinata and Niji were standing in a basic on-guard gentle fist stance looking at the duo warily. I see you've made your introduction, Hayashi stated as he walked through the doorway. Hello, father. Hinata didn't look away from the Kyuubi. Hayashi looked at the two Hyuga and saw that their bloodline limit was activated, granting them 360-degree vision. Greetings, Hayashi-sama, Niji stated a moment later. You don't need to worry about Kyuubi-san. At this, both Niji and Hinata turned to look at Hayashi in amazement. Father, you know what she did, Hinata began. I do, and I know why. Hayashi's statement hit the Hyuga children hard. You've talked with her then? Niji asked and stated at the same time. With Naruto and the Hokage present, Hayashi replied. We were trying to figure out why she wasn't attacking Konoha if she could get out. Get out of what, father? Hinata asked. You've been told that the Yondaime defeated the Kyuubi no Kitsune about 7 years ago at the cost of his own life, Hayashi stated. He sealed me inside Naruto-kun with a forbidden technique. The fox darted through Naruto's guard and lifted his shirt up with one paw. Placing a second on the blonde's belly, she sent a minute pulse of chakra into him, revealing the seal. Hinata was the first to lower her guard, and when Niji saw that both Hayashi and Hinata seemed to trust the demon, then he too lowered his guard and sat back down. So you aren't a demon like the villagers yell that you are, Niji stated. Obviously not, Gaki, the Kyuubi stated. My presence alone should be enough to confirm that. You're the genius of the Hyuga clan, use your brains for once today. That insult wounded Niji's pride to no end. At least you can see the difference between the human and the demon living together, Hayashi said to Niji, trying to cheer him up a little. There's a whole village of people along with many shinobi that don't have the brains to understand what you see. That's right, Niji and I-san, Hinata said to her cousin. Getting a little familiar with each other, eh? What's the next step? Hayashi joked and inwardly smiled with amusement as Hinata and Niji spewed the water they had been drinking directly on Naruto and the Kyuubi. Father! Hayashi-sama, I beg to differ. Thanks for the shower, the Kyuubi muttered and then began to shake herself dry, further soaking Naruto to the bone. Why am I always on the losing end on these things? Naruto cried to no one in particular, as he felt the cold spray. The Sandaime Hokage of Konoha smirked as he saw Hinata and Niji come to accept both the blonde and the fox sealed inside him. Children who could understand Naruto would only help him. The fact that they were Hyuga and practically royalty only made Naruto's position better in the future. Unfortunately for the Hokage, not everything was going as swimmingly for him as it was for Naruto. The Uchiha clan was defiantly up to something. They were holding regular clan meetings for longer than they used to. In fact, it seemed as if they accomplished less and less in these meetings than normal. Uchiha efficiency was usually impeccable, but now it was a clue to something being amiss. Tiredly, he began to think of the possibilities present to him in dealing with the matter. The ones that he could think up didn't sit well with him. After all, killing a clan is a big deal. Sighing, he put the matter to rest in order to move on to more pressuring things, like the Kumo attack. Something seemed wrong as he reviewed the facts. No one on the patrols noticed anything in the hours and minutes before the fighting began. Even that statement seemed awkward. The ANBU were the creme of the creme and they couldn't detect a Jinchuriki's presence? Even while unconscious in the ANBU prison, the Kunoichi exuded power. Even a Chunin could sense her power, so why didn't the ANBU find her? Sarutobi walked out of his office still pondering these things and strode down the halls of the Hokage Tower. The council was meeting a floor below the Hokage's office to discuss the recent and bellicose actions against Konoha. As soon as Sarutobi swept into the room, the other members of the council stood in respect and waited for the leader of Konoha to sit before they did likewise. I would like to call this meeting to order, the Hokage rumbled. Anyone like to give a recap of what happened? Danzo raised his one good arm and then spoke. Kumo has recently engaged in offensive actions against the village during a time of peace. In addition to attempting to kidnap Hyuga Hinata, the heir to the Hyuga clan, they also attempted to spirit away the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. During their assault on the Hyuga clan estate, both targets defended themselves against one Jounin and one Jinchuriki from Kumo. After aid arrived, both Kumo and Nin were subdued and captured. The only damages were to a small section of the Hyuga clan estate where the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was residing. Danzo finished with his statement and fell silent. In the future, I request that Uzumaki Naruto not be referred to as the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. He is a human being and has a name. Hayashi spoke up. In addition, my brother found the Nibi Jinchuriki, Niyujuto, unconscious at Naruto's feet when he arrived. Other than that, I have nothing further to add to Danzo's statement. Very well, Sarutobi said. If anyone wishes to refer to a Jinchuriki, Please use the person's name. Danzo's eyes narrowed, as he knew this was deliberately pointed at him. Now, please tell me what your opinion is about what Konoha should do in response to the recent events. I don't care what it is, just tell me. Retaliate with military assaults, targeting key support installations that Kyuubi relies on. Danzo immediately stated and then allowed others to speak. Imprison the Kyuubi shinobi and interrogate them for further information. Uchiha Fugaku stated. I believe that we may be able to learn of gaps in our defenses if we learn how they snuck into Konoha. This would be a great asset to our general security. We need to gain a non-threatening relationship with Kyuubi. Inuzuka-tsum stated. I think that we should interrogate them mildly to see if we can sniff out any useful information. After that we release them to Kyuubi after a treaty is finalized. I think that our standing with Kyuubi would be better if we simply released them to Kyuubi and escorted them to the border. Akimichi Chuza added to the growing list of opinions. We can release the Jounin to Kyuubi to gain some good faith, but keep Niujuto. Nara Shikaka stated. Uzumaki Naruto is an enigma because he is a Jinchuriki. The Biju sealed inside humans have generally been used to wage destructive war, but as of now, Naruto's only training will be from normal shinobi. This is a chance for him to receive Jinchuriki training from another Jinchuriki. I agree with Shikaka-san's proposal, but must add that all of Uzumaki's training with Yujuto be under the supervision of an elite Jounin for a probation period. Aburaim Shibi added to Nara Shikaku's idea. This would be to make sure Uzumaki Naruto is learning beneficial things. She would also have to be under ANBU supervision at all times, seeing as she could possibly be a threat to Konoha. Uchiha Fugaku stated. Don't have any other idea to Shikaka-san's, Shibi-san's and Fugaku-san's proposition. Hayashi stated lastly. I'm sure that you, Danzo-san, would agree that Naruto needs training when it comes to the issue of the Kyuubi. I can see nothing wrong with the idea. Does anyone else have anything else to add to be considered? Sarutobi asked the council. No one said anything in reply to his question. Very well then, since several seemed to like the idea of releasing the Kyuubi Jounin, while keeping Niujuto, it shall be put to a vote. Pausing and taking a deep breath, calming breath, the Sandaime Hokage put the matter to a vote. All those in favor of following the previously mentioned course of action, please raise your hand. Hayashi raised his hand along with Shikaku, Shibi, and Fugaku. Sarutobi raised his hand as well. All those against this course of action, please raise your hand. Danzo raised his only good arm to shoulder level to make his vote clear, followed by Tsun and Chuza. Very well then, by a vote of 5-3, the Kyuubi Jounin will be released, given a message to carry to Kyuubi, and be escorted to the border by a squad of ANBU. Niujuto, on the other hand, will remain in Konoha under ANBU supervision for a probation period of a year. She will also train Uzumaki Naruto in the ways of the Jinchuriki, and how to do battle with the Biju. This training will be under the supervision of at least one elite Jounin, in addition to the ANBU squad assigned to shadow her. What troublesome accommodations will we provide Niujuto? Shikaku asked, sounding bored out of his mind. We can't have her living in prison all the time, and I doubt that there is a family willing to welcome an enemy Shinbe into their house. Danzo and several others looked at Hayashi longer than the pupilless man liked. May I help you? He asked in a dangerous, calm and cold voice. I thought that you would be the first to welcome this one into your home like the last one, Danzo said with a small smile. That's quite enough, Danzo, you may excuse yourself from this table. The Sandaime's eyes had hard steel in them, making it known to the crippled old man the dangerous territory he was standing in. I feel that your presence is no longer welcome. Danzo didn't reply or make any indication that he had heard the Hokage, except that he slowly stood up and hobbled out of the room. When he closed the door, a chill that no one had previously noticed vanished. It was as if Danzo was the one exuding coldness throughout the entire meeting. What message shall we send to Kyuubi with the Jounin we release? Tsum asked, glad that the war-obsessed cripple, Danzo, had left the room. Everyone unconsciously became more relaxed and comfortable without him there. A simple letter of our intentions and wishes for peace should suffice, Hayashi stated. I don't think that they need a wordy explanation. They are, after all, the ones who could have ignited the Fourth Shinobi War. I concur with Hayashi-san. Aburaim Shibi stated in a monotone, not an ounce of emotion in his voice or his posture. He was the very image of cold, calculating logic. Anything more than detaining Niujuto and, by conjunction, the Nibi sealed within her, could potentially create an unstable inter-village situation. Anything more than a simple yet effective message conveying our intents could incite anger against Konoha. Are there any objections to this plan? Sarutobi asked. When no one raised a hand or made his or her opinion in the matter known, he concluded the meeting. Then I shall have a letter drafted and ready by morning. At which time, Niyujito will be released from the ANBU prison should she prove herself to be in agreement with our decision. If not, then she shall remain in prison and under interrogation. Should she prove receptive to our plan, then she shall be told of her probation period, training, and be given a small apartment to stay in. Are there any more troublesome issues to discuss? Nara Shikaku asked lazily, not even bothering to hide his want to leave the meeting. Or can we adjourn for now? Nothing comes to mind. The Sandaime Hokage replied. Is there a motion to adjourn? So made. Shikaku called out. Seconded. Akimichi Chusa stated, already rubbing an obviously empty stomach. Meeting adjourned until the next call. Sarutobi formally finished the meeting and watched the other members of the council file out of the meeting room. Sighing, he gathered up his notes and other documents and stuffed them into a folder. He swept out of the room and slowly made his way back up the stairs to his office. He was glad that the meeting had gone as smoothly as it had. There were some meetings where Danzo would make a fuss and then everyone would be arguing for hours on relatively simple issues. Sighing again, he sat down behind his desk and sank into his chair. Now he just had to write a letter to Kumo and not start a war in the process. Naruto was ecstatic when he learned he was finally ready for ninjutsu training. After coming home from the council meeting last night, Hayashi tested both Naruto and Hinata and declared that they were ready to move on in their training. Hinata would stay with her father and uncle to learn the Gentle Fist, the traditional style of the Hyuga clan, which brought out the full potential of the Byakugan. Naruto, on the other hand, would go to the Uchiha compound and find his new sensei, Uchiha Itachi, the prodigy of the Uchiha clan. Nani! You're telling me that Scardy Uchiha is an ANBU? Naruto was shocked to say the least. Boo-boo, but he was absolutely scared of Kyuchan. He had good reason to be. The Kyuubi scoffed as she gloated at knowing the Uchiha was scared of her. About time somebody realized how awesome I am. I'm not the strongest demon for nothing. Yeah, but still, you looked like a normal fox at the time, Naruto retorted. But I spoke aloud. The vixen replied. Only summons or those Inuzuka dogs can talk. So why didn't he think that you were a summon? Naruto asked. Because there isn't a fox summoning contract, Naruto, Hayashi said as he walked into the room where Naruto and the Kyuubi were talking. The blonde and the fox were sitting on one couch, while Hinata and Niji sat on another couch playing shogi, SP? But what if she was hinged into a fox while really being some other summoning? A curious blonde asked. No self-respecting animal summoned would allow themselves to be hinged into another animal unless needed for in battle. Summonings have a sense of pride that humans seem to forget all the time. Oh, Naruto replied. There are times when the summonings are more the master than the summoner, Hayashi added. In addition, summons require a gift of some sort for their services. They are partners, not servants. So kinda like Kyuchan and I? Naruto asked. Similar, the red fox replied as she curled up on the blonde's nap. Click. Flash. Oh, what a perfect moment. All four of you look so cute. Hinata's mom, who Naruto found out was named Hana, crooned over the three young children and one absolutely adorable millennial-old demon fox. Gah! I'm blind. Naruto staggered around the room wildly trying to rub the afterimages from his eyes. The Kyuubi was sprawled unceremoniously on the ground, with her tail significantly higher than her head. Hinata giggled at the sight while Niji sighed. Although the blonde was worth keeping around, he did have moments where Niji questioned his uncle's decision. The flashes and clicks kept coming until Hana ran out of film in her camera. Taking pictures of the children was a lot of fun, and offered countless blackmailing opportunities when they grew older. Hana-san, moaned Naruto as his vision began to return to normal. Why? Because it was fun, she replied with a smile. GRRR Naruto's replied. Hana rubbed his head affectionately before hugging Hinata and saying hello to her stoic nephew. Niji wasn't one for hugging and other displays of emotion. He was a miniature version of his father, but slightly more formal. I just wanted to tell you that diner will be ready in half an hour, so wash up and get ready. Hana's statement was replied with a chorus of hi. As two boys, a girl, and a fox jumped past the mother on their way to get ready for diner. It's nice seeing them get along so well, Hana said as she hugged her husband. Hayashi kissed his wife on her head and buried his nose into her hair, holding her even closer to his chest. It's almost as if they are all siblings, Hayashi commented. Hana replied into Hayashi's chest. Are you comfortable with an Uchiha training Naruto? Hana asked her husband as she pulled out of the embrace enough to speak. Sarutobi-sama feels that Itachi is honorable and devoted to Konoha before his clan, Hayashi replied. And quite frankly, I agree. That startled his wife, but she didn't show it. He revealed that the Uchiha clan is plotting against the Hokage. It confirmed the rumors that I had heard, and he is currently investigating who is behind the move, and who is involved. So he'd do practically anything for Konoha? Hana asked. That sounds an awful lot like Danzo and his route ANBU. I know, but he is reporting directly to the top and I feel that he may be loyal to those who show him kindness, Hayashi stated. So he is like Naruto? I would think so, but not so openly, Hayashi replied, but then whispered into his wife's ear about Niyujuto and her potential training of Naruto. If either one of his new senseis decided to harm Naruto, there wasn't much that the blonde would be able to do, reasoned Hana. A well-trained Jinchuriki and the Uchiha prodigy. Both strong shinobi came from factions that didn't like the Hyugas. Someone might just try to take revenge on the Hyugas by harming Naruto. It was a possibility, after all. Dinner that night was quieter than normal, but that was to be expected. Hinata and Naruto were at important transition points in their ninja training. Both 7-year-olds went to bed early so they could be ready for whatever tomorrow brought. Naruto woke up the next morning to the incessant ringing of his alarm clock. He was about to use a chakra-reinforced right-hand smash to shut it up, but a red paw beat him to it. Instead of creating property damage, the vixen simply tapped it with lightning-quick reflexes, milliseconds before the blonde's fist could even begin to move. Naruto stretched to wake up his stiff muscles and tried to get out of bed, but found the Kyuubi still sleeping on his thighs. "Oh, you! Wake up! We have to meet my new sensei." 5 more minutes. The ancient nine-tailed demon begged. Half asleep, she flicked her tail towards Naruto, trying to shush him up. "We've got to go," Naruto said firmly, trying to reason with the red fur ball in front of and on top of him. "I think there's bacon for breakfast." "Why didn't you say so sooner?" the Kyuubi asked, already opening the door to the hallway. "Come on, slowpoke. That bacon is calling to me." She took a few sniffs of hallway air before giving the blonde a toothy grin. "You're right, and that meat's got my name written all over it." Naruto was stumbling around his room trying to dress as quickly as possible. Eventually he wound up with his shirt on backwards, but decided that it was good enough. In a flash he was racing the Kyuubi down the hall, narrowly missing members of the Hyuga clan, who simply froze as they saw the pair running towards them. It had long since been discovered that freezing was the best way to avoid being trampled by the duo. The Kyuubi nosed ahead around a bend that Naruto had some difficulty with. It was a sharp right angle, and the only thing keeping him from smashing into the opposing wall was his use of the walls to rebound off of using chakra. It was as if he was going around a bank turn, but a little more awkward, thus the Kyuubi's marginal lead. She had a lighter mass, and thus was affected much less by centripetal forces. Literally nose to nose, Naruto and the Kyuubi sprinted into the dining hall where Hayashi and Hizashi usually ate their breakfast with their family and Naruto. This morning, piles of bacon, eggs, and hash browns lined the center of the table. Naruto zipped to his chair where 2 plates sat. On the first one he piled a liberal portion of the crunchy meat and set it before the Kyuubi who sat under his chair. Once she was happily munching away, Naruto piled all 3 breakfast items onto his plate, lathered the scrambled eggs with syrup, author's note, "This tastes very good," and poured himself a tall glass or orange juice. The other members of the Hyuga clan chuckled at the duo's excitement over such a simple thing as breakfast. Despite their abrupt and often noisy arrival, they were well behaved once food was placed in front of them. This was absolutely insisted upon by Hana, who fussed over every mess the children made. Hizashi's wife Hisha was starting to show a bulge in her midsection. Upon further investigation with anyone's Byakugan, it was clear she was pregnant. She sat next to her husband while Naruto, Hinata, and Niji sat next to each other. It was a happy family that Naruto felt he could say he was a part of. Clearing his throat, Hayashi garnered everyone's attention. Today marks a step towards becoming powerful ninja for both Hinata and Naruto. He smiled at the 2 7-year-olds sitting side by side. "Hinata will continue to study under me but will be learning more of our clan techniques." Looking at Naruto, he continued. "On the other hand, Naruto's training with the Hyuga clan has come to a close and will be moving on to a sensei that Hokage-sama has handpicked." "Congratulations," was the general murmur around the table. Naruto and Hinata smiled at the recognition of their achievements. "Naruto, when you are done, I have to talk with you. I received a message from Hokage-sama about your training." Hayashi's voice was not angry or any other emotion, it was neutral. After both Naruto and the Kyuubi finished their breakfasts, Hayashi motioned them to follow him into an adjacent room to talk. "There's been another change to your training," Hayashi stated simply when the door had closed. He spoke in a low voice, clearly not wanting to be overheard. "Why did Gigi change it again?" Naruto asked. Actually, the council made the decision and he backed it, but that is a different matter. Hayashi did a very rare thing, he actually started to ramble, but he caught himself before anything major happened, like a meteor strike or a bubonic plague outbreak. We are to meet one of your new senseis at the Anbu prison. Did he get in trouble? Naruto asked. Your sensei is a she actually, but her trouble should be resolved when we get there, Hayashi said smoothly. Follow me. Niujuto sat in her cold and dark cell. She didn't know where she was. One moment she was caught off guard by her target's demonic chakra surge, the next she was waking up in this cell, chained to the wall, clearly a prisoner. Although sunlight didn't reach to her damp 8x8 cell, she could imprecisely track time by the number of meals the leaf ANBU brought her. She had been in the cell for 5 days if her assumption of 3 meals a day was true. Or maybe her time in the cell was more, since she had been knocked out. The ANBU didn't give her any indication that they even heard her questions. They simply walked in and placed a tray of food within her reach and then left. They came in pairs, one to cover the doorway and their partner, while the second moved forward to give her her meal. Today didn't seem any different, except that there was no food, and a full 4-man ANBU squad entered her cell. Yujuto was nervous by the show of force that the leaf was presenting her. Despite the fact that she was chained loosely to the wall and both her and the Nibi's chakra was sealed away, the ANBU didn't take any chances with their Jinchuriki prisoner. A moment after the last ANBU got into his, or maybe it was a she, place and a man in white robes walked in. He used a cane and was smoking a pipe. He was easily 60 years old and was wearing a hat with the kanji 4 fire on it. He was Konoha's Sandaime Hokage. Kitten, you are so going to die. Shut up. Yujuto snarled at the two-tailed demon cat inside her head. Worry flashed across the 15-year-old Jinchuriki's face as Sarutobi walked closer to her. As he advanced, she retreated until her back touched the cold stone wall and had nowhere left to go. I'm not here to hurt you, Sarutobi said in a kind voice. You're going to kill me, aren't you? Yujuto accused the wizened old man, ignoring his words. Don't lie to me. The third smiled slightly, causing Yujuto to become very scared indeed. I have a scroll from the Konoha Council. It is the ruling body here in Konoha and they have come to a decision concerning you. The Nibi's host was paralyzed with fear as Sarutobi drew the scroll from within his robes. I told you, the Nibi stated matter-of-factly. If you are willing to remain here and train a boy while under ANBU surveillance, you may live in Konoha in peace. Niujuto was shocked. The Nibi was as well. Defying all logical reasoning, the council had deemed that she should live and had even given her freedom at a small price. How hard could it be to train a boy? She had expected death if she was caught. Hell, her actions warranted it. Niujuto, Jinchuriki of the Nibi, do you accept the terms offered to you by the Council of Konoha? The Sandaime Hokage asked formally. How could I not? Yujuto answered both for herself as well as the Nibi. Smiling, Sarutobi produced a key from his robes and then unlocked the chains from Yujuto's limbs. Although your normal chakra will be unsealed, I'm afraid the Nibis will have to remain tucked away. Sarutobi explained the general fear of demonic chakra in the hidden village. If it meant her safety, Yujuto readily agreed with it. Konoha had been more than fair to her. If she had been in Kumo, she would have been killed and the Nibi extracted and resealed into another. Kitten the Nibi began to speak, but found that she couldn't continue. A huge demonic presence was coming towards them. Although normal humans couldn't sense this, the Nibi and by extension, Yujuto could. You may let Naruto-kun in. The Hokage instructed the ANBU stationed at the door, who promptly let the 7-year-old, blue-eyed blonde in. Hello Gigi. Naruto chirped as he greeted the Hokage. In the boy's arms was a fox that practically oozed demonic chakra. Are you Yujuto-sensei? He asked hesitantly, looking at the Kumo Kunoichi. This is Niujuto, Naruto. Sarutobi began as the fox sniffed the air. She's got Nibi-san sealed inside her, the Kyuubi said in a smooth voice. Are you the Ninetales? Yujuto asked, fearful of the red fox. The one and only Kyuubi no Kitsune at your service. The vixen answered with a slight bow and a flourish of her tail. Scampering over to the Kumo Kunoichi, the Kyuubi sniffed her over. I like her better than that scarred Uchiha, she stated as she jumped into the blonde's arms and draped herself around his neck like a scarf. Naruto scratched the Kyuubi behind her ears absent-mindedly as Sarutobi introduced him. Yujuto-san, this is Uzumaki Naruto. He paused for a moment. He is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Nice to meet you, Yujuto-sensei. Naruto stuck out a hand to shake hers. Just before Yujuto shook the younger blonde's hand, the Kyuubi walked down Naruto's arm and put a paw out inside Naruto's palm. Yujito shook both paw and hand in one go, and then stood up. Taking another look around the room, she noticed a black-haired man standing by the door. His pale white eyes betrayed him as a Hyuga, one of the clans she had just attacked. Yujito immediately went on guard and tensed, not knowing if he meant her well or ill. You may relax, Yujito-san, Hayashi stated. No member of the Hyuga clan will attack you unless you attack first. Yujito nodded, barely hearing the clan head's words. Hayashi-san, I bet she's going to teach me all sorts of cool things too. Hayashi smiled at the boy's exuberance. That's what we are hoping for, Naruto, Hayashi replied with a smile. Yujito retreated deep into her mind and came to a sunny field where the Kyuubi resided. Flowers grew in the shape of the seal that held back the Nibi. As long as the demon cat didn't attack Yujito, she was free to roam her domain in the Kunoichi's mindscape. Kitten, are you worried about staying in Konoha? The ancient cat inquired. This isn't anything like Kyuumo, she began. They treat me like a human. Is that the reason you came in here, kitten? The Nibi demanded. Because a couple of people treat you like you've always dreamed of being treated? You need to learn that you are a Kunoichi and have to grow out of childish fears. But nobody in Kyuumo would even look at me as if I was an equal. Even the ninja only called me weapon. Yujito blurted out. Konoha appears different, the Nibi replied. That boy Naruto has the support of the Hokage as well as a prominent clan head. She allowed her words to seep into Yujito's brain. So people here might like Jinchuriki here? The blonde Kyuumo Kunoichi asked, surprised at the notion that such a place existed in the world. I wouldn't get your hopes up, the blue cat cautioned. You've only seen the Hokage and one clan head. If I remember correctly, Konoha is less strict than Kyuumo. The villagers might not believe the same things that the Hokage does. Way to ruin my hopes, Yujito muttered darkly. I'm only being realistic, the Nibi replied. Now get back out there. Yujito's vision swirled as she left her mindscape and became aware of her surroundings. When her vision stabilized, she found herself riding on the back of a large furry animal. Upon further investigation, it was a large red fox. More specifically, she was riding the Kyuubi like a horse. Wait, what? The Kyuubi was tiny, could she change size? Damn right I can change size. The Kyuubi growled in her wolf-sized form as if reading Yujito's thoughts. I've got about 2 tails of chakra to work with. Yujito and the Nibi froze at the Kyuubi's seemingly casual statement. That's the same amount as Nibi, Yujito exclaimed. Yes, and it's less than 2/9 of my chakra. The Kyuubi enjoyed scaring the older Jinchuriki. So the number of tails represents the strength and chakra capacities of all the Biju? Naruto asked upon hearing the Kyuubi's words. Somewhat, but there are other demons with multiple tails, the Kyuubi replied. So there could be a 10-tailed cat? Naruto asked. No, the demon fox replied. The Biju are the strongest demon of their animal type. Since I am the strongest of the Biju, there could be a fox-type demon with 8 tails. If I died or somehow lost a tail of power, another fox could claim the title of Biju. So each type of animal demon is a kingdom with the Biju, as the king or queen in both your cases, Sarutobi said to the Nibi and Kyuubi, trying to understand what the fox queen had said. You could put it in those words, I suppose, the red oversized vixen replied. It doesn't capture the intricacies of the demon hierarchies, but it is a working illustration. The only thing I would add is that the title of Biju doesn't necessarily pass down through a family, although it is a possibility. I never knew that, Yujito murmured loudly enough for everyone to hear. None of us did, Sarutobi stated, trying to make her feel less left out. Yes, but I've been talking with Nibi for nearly 10 years, Yujito exclaimed. She never told me about stuff like this before. Can you stand and walk, Yujito-sensei? Naruto asked. The Kyuubi stopped at the entrance to the ANBU prison. She didn't want to walk around Konoha varying shapes and sizes. It would probably incite a riot and endanger her Naruto-kun. Hayashi helped Yujito to her feet as she dismounted the Kyuubi. He made sure that she could stand on her 1-2 feet before moving away. Thank you, Hayashi-sama. I think I can walk. Thank you, Kyuubi-sama. It's Kyuubi-san. The fox corrected the girl and licked her face at the same time. She then shrank to her original size and with a running leap, scampered her way up Naruto's side and settled down around his neck. She draped her hind and forelegs limply and relaxed. Satisfied with the current situation, Sarutobi left the ANBU prison with Yujito and the ANBU guard following. Hayashi took Naruto and the Kyuubi to a training ground to meet the famous Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi was doing a very un-Uchiha-like thing. He was sneaking out of the Uchiha compound, and it was easier said than done. Being a highly recognizable prodigy of the clan, along with the fact he was the heir to the clan, didn't make his job any easier. Itachi! He heard his father's voice calling to him. Cursing his rotten luck, Itachi stopped and walked to where his father was. There was no way he could have kept going. Giving the excuse of not hearing wouldn't fly. He was a member of the ANBU, Konoha's elite fighting force, and he was capable of hearing a mouse squeak 30 meters away. The Uchiha prodigy waited a few meters away from his father respectfully as Uchiha Fugaku finished speaking to two clan elders. After several minutes, Uchiha Fugaku finished talking with the elders and turned his attention to Itachi. I nearly missed you. Do you have a mission? Yes, father. Itachi replied in a respectful manner. What is it? Fugaku queried. I'm not sure of its nature. Itachi replied truthfully. He didn't know what to expect while training one Uzumaki Naruto, Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. What rank is it? The elder Uchiha pushed for more information. I'm not positive, Itachi replied, but I believe it is a solo B rank. Fugaku looked like he was going to push his son for more information, so Itachi attempted his escape plan. Please excuse me, father, but Hokage-sama is waiting for me. With that, the Uchiha prodigy leapt to the rooftops and speed off towards the Hokage's tower. Uchiha Fugaku watched his eldest son run off. He's hiding something. You know that, don't you? A voice came from a seemingly blank wall. Yes, the Uchiha clan head replied slowly. Your orders? Follow him discreetly and find out what he does, Fugaku ordered. He is becoming more and more distant as each day passes. Hi, Fugaku-sama. With that, the subtle presence in the wall vanished, and the Uchiha clan head entered the Uchiha compound. Naruto, with his Kyuubi scarf, wandered around Training Ground 12. IT was completely abandoned. He had explored every nook and cranny of the quarter-square-mile training facility, finding armloads of ninja weaponry. He brought these to the center where the grass had been stomped away and only a hard, dirty surface remained. Roughly 90% of the Senbon, kunai, and shuriken were junk. The Senbon were usually blunted badly from impact, or were bent beyond hope of repair. The blonde typically junked the kunai with chips in their edges or obviously bent. Shuriken were the hardest to deem reusable. If the mass of one of the blades was different from the others because of a chip or bend, the weapon would spin out of control and miss the intended target by wide margins. With the number of rocks and other hard surfaces littered around the training ground, Naruto only found a handful that he could reuse. Nearly an hour and a half after Naruto had arrived, Itachi showed up. Calmly he noted the pile of ninja weaponry at the blonde's feet. In reality, he hadn't gone to the Hokage's office like he had told his father. He had sensed the tale and had shaken it off, but it took nearly an hour, even with his ANBU skills, and that was troublesome. Whomever it was, they were good. Pushing that train of thought to the back of his mind for later consideration, Itachi walked closer to the blonde. I am Uchiha Itachi. Hokage-sama asked me to train you in the ninja art of ninjutsu. So what am I going to learn first? Naruto asked. One of the most useful and simple ninjutsus that all ninjas know, the henge. Itachi replied. Here are the seals. The ANBU slowly formed the hand seals and then turned into a copy of Naruto. After the smoke cleared, Naruto gawked at the perfect replica of himself. With a second cloud of smoke, Itachi reappeared. Now you do it. Just channel your chakra into your hands as you perform the seals. Sensei? Naruto began. I don't know any hand seals. That threw Itachi off balance mentally. How can he train with the Hyuga clan and not know the hand seals? He knows one, the fox seal. The Kyuubi spoke up from around Naruto's neck. Created it so I could gain this lovely, furry body. Show it to me, Itachi said. It wasn't a request, it was an order. Naruto complied, twisting his hands together, and showed it to the Uchiha. Itachi examined the new seal for a minute before asking, May I copy it with my Sharingan? I suppose so, as long as you don't show it to anyone without my permission, the Kyuubi replied. I would like you to analyze it to the best of your ability. If possible, I'd like to create a few jutsus that use it. It may take a while, but I think that Naruto will be ready for creating jutsus when I figure everything out, Itachi said smoothly while copying the fox hand seal with his 3-tome Sharingan. Fine, the Kyuubi replied. Now let's learn these regular hand seals. For the rest of the morning, Itachi worked the blonde through each of the 12 normal hand seals. By lunchtime, blonde boy could form each hand seal impeccably at a good speed, namely 2 per second. Quite an achievement for one so young. Most rookie genin were only slightly faster. For Naruto to achieve such a level in a few hours, it was impressive. I think that is enough for this morning, Itachi informed the young Jinchuriki. It's time for lunch. Is there anything that you would like to eat? Ramen! Naruto cried exuberantly. He had mastered the henge and was feeling good. I don't see why not, Itachi replied. Do you want to sell those junked weapons to Darren while we're out? Yeah, but there are so many, Naruto whined. I can't carry them all. Itachi thought for a moment, debating on what to do. Finally deciding, he looked at Naruto and formed the cross-hand seal. This is a Jounin-level ninjutsu because of the large amount of chakra it consumes. With you, that is no problem. Besides, it is relatively simple. Is that the first seal? Naruto asked, coping Itachi. It's the only one. Like I said, it's rather simple, Itachi replied. This is called the Kagebushin no Jutsu. Naruto silently channeled a large amount of chakra through the seal. He poured roughly 30% of his chakra into the jutsu and was rewarded with 10 pops and 10 clouds of smoke. When the clouds disappeared, 10 copies of the blonde stood blinking and looking at each other. Alright everyone, listen up. Itachi caught all the blonde's attention. Everyone is going to henge into a civilian and then carry some scrap to Darren's. The clones and the original scrambled to follow their sensei's orders. They all disappeared in clouds of smoke and then reappeared as various civilians, all kids. They picked up all the scrap metal and ran through Konoha with an armload of black ninja tools. As soon as they were safely inside Darren's smithy, they dropped their henges and deposited their loads into the appropriate area. With this latest delivery of high-quality scrap metal, Darren was quite happy. Going to be a shinobi, eh? The muscular smith smiled at the blonde boy as he saw Itachi standing by the doorway. If you keep bringing me these, he gestured to the pile or assorted, junked kunai, shuriken and saban. When you need a specialty weapon, come to me. I'll forge you any weapon you'd like. Naruto's eyes widened at the generous offer. Specialty weaponry was very expensive due to the skills and high-quality materials required. Thank you, sir, Naruto exclaimed. Darren smiled at the boy's appreciation for his offer. Leaving the smithy with a smile on his face, Naruto followed Itachi to the nearest ramen stand. If the owners of the stand were demon haters, they didn't show it at all. The fact that Itachi, the heir to the Uchiha clan, was with the blonde, practically forced them to serve him and treat him nicely. Their lunch was uneventful, if you could call 8 bowls of ramen uneventful. By the time Naruto was done, he couldn't eat another bite if his life depended on it. The Kyuubi finished licking the last of his bowls clean when Naruto had recovered enough to continue training. With only an hour since they left training ground 12, the trio, remember the Kyuubi, returned and Itachi began to lecture Naruto on the Kagebushin no Jutsu. One of the many advantages of the Kagebushin is that it is a physical clone of you, Itachi began. These clones can fight, perform jutsus, think independently, and even learn. Learn? Naruto asked. Yes, I think that this requires a demonstration, Itachi replied and created a single shadow clone. Now just use less chakra than last time and try to create only one clone. The blonde closed his eyes in concentration and formed the seal. A moment later, 2 cuts of smoke disappeared, revealing 2 blonde clones. Not bad, commented Itachi's clone. Both of you, he pointed at Naruto's 2 clones, follow me. They disappeared into the warehouse and a moment later Itachi asked, who won? You cheated with UI-sensei, Naruto replied automatically. Wait, how do I know that? Whenever your clones learn, you learn as well, Itachi replied. As you can see, they are useful for mate purposes. The jutsu was originally created as a scouting and recon method so one could send a clone to investigate deadly areas without worry in order to gather information. When your clone dispels, you learn everything that they learned. That's cool, Naruto replied. Would it be possible for me to use this ninjutsu? The Kyuubi asked. Itachi would have jumped if he hadn't been trained as an ANBU. The Kyuubi was sitting less than a meter from his feet. Looks like I can suppress my presence even in this body. It might be possible for you, Kyuubi-san, Itachi answered. Oh, you remembered. I respect your power, Kyuubi-san, Itachi replied without looking at the fox. I don't want to cross you. Very wise, the vixen said with a toothy grin. I wonder what would happen if Konoha was surrounded by 10 Miis. Freak out most likely, Naruto commented. So what else are you going to teach me? Naruto, to learn a Jounin level forbidden jutsu in a day is an impressive feat, Itachi replied. But before we move on, I'd like to make sure that you can bring out the full potential to the shadow clone. So you're a quality over quantity type of person when it comes to ninjutsu? Naruto asked sourly, really looking forward to learning more ninjutsu. Not at all, Naruto, Itachi replied. Then why not teach me more today? Naruto asked. I can already use the henge and shadow clones, so why not move on to another cool ninjutsu? When you have gained a good level of accomplishment with the Kagebushin no Jutsu, I can teach you many more ninjutsus, Itachi answered. If your clones learn and pass that on to you when they are dispelled, what would happen if 10 clones learned one jutsu a day for a week? Naruto was silent for a minute before a spark in his eyes grew to a vigorous bonfire. I'd learn like 70 jutsus in a week, Naruto exclaimed. Exactly, Itachi replied. Then let's get hopping, Naruto yelled as he greeted 5 clones and began to prefect the shadow clones. Naruto trudged home to the Hyuga clan estate from Training Ground 12. Although he wasn't physically tired, the mental strain of absorbing the memories of countless clones had left him in a daze. What a slave driver, complained Naruto mentally to the red fox that was walking next to him. Instead of hanging around the blonde's neck, the Kyuubi was on guard at his side ready for anything. Unfortunately for the duo, the Kyuubi's precautions were necessary. As soon as he had parted ways with Itachi, villagers had started to follow him. Block by block, more and more left what they were doing and followed him with a baleful glint in their eyes. Soon pebbles and small rocks pelted the blonde, but the 7-year-old didn't pay any attention to these missiles. They hurt, yes, but the Kyuubi's healing processes didn't take long to nullify the effects of the impacts. Gradually the chanting of Dai Demon grew and larger, fist-sized, stones were being hurled at high speeds towards the relatively defenseless boy. Kit! The Kyuubi growled under her breath as she faced the crowd and walked backwards at the same speed as Naruto. I know, Naruto replied, but I don't want to hurt them. You may not have a choice. The Kyuubi muttered a few select curses that would make any sailor worth his salts cringe. In front of Naruto, a second crowd of villagers cut him off, trapping the boy and the fox. At this point a kunai sailed towards Naruto, who dodged barely. The rusted and chipped ninja weapon seemed to be a signal of some sort, and all hell broke loose. Jiraiya, the Toad Sannin, and self-proclaimed super pervert was enjoying a cold bottle of sake after a very productive afternoon. Konoha's women always gave him the best research material. The curves, the measurements that seemed to be impossible. The Sannin let out a small, tiny, perverted giggle as he thought back to his quality peeping time at the local public bathhouse. He was halfway into dream mode when a pebble hit him squarely in the back of his head. Damn gawky! He muttered and whipped around trying to find the one responsible for taking away the beautiful girls dancing before his eyes. Instead, the sight he beheld was barely comprehensible to the legendary ninja. Konoha's villagers were yelling and screaming at a small boy. Pebbles and rocks filled the air and hit him squarely all over his body, yet the kid just stood there and took the abuse. In fact, it didn't look like the kid even felt the blows. Suddenly a kunai flew from the crowd and nicked the boy on the neck. If he blonde hadn't dodged, he would have had a metal throat. Time seemed to slow down as the kunai approached the kid. For the first time since Jiraiya had clapped eyes on the boy, he looked up to track the weapon. His blue eyes flashed with determination as he snapped to the side in just enough time to avoid a deadly blow. The boy's cheeks, previously hidden by his bangs, were exposed and revealed 3 scars on each side of his face that looked like scars. Those marks. Flashback. So this is Minato's son? Jiraiya asked the Sandaime Hokage, his sensei. Minato sealed the 9 tails inside his stone? Yes, Sarutobi answered and then held up the child so that the Sannin could see his face. 3 perfect scars marred his otherwise blemish-free skin on each cheek. They looked like whiskers. End flashback. Suddenly all hell broke loose and the crowd charged the boy and his fox. Time seemed to slow down as the kunai approached the kid. For the first time since Jiraiya had clapped eyes on the boy, he looked up to track the weapon. His blue eyes flashed with determination as he snapped to the side in just enough time to avoid a deadly blow. The boy's cheeks, previously hidden by his bangs, were exposed and revealed 3 scars on each side of his face that looked like whiskers. Those marks. Flashback. So this is Minato's son? Jiraiya asked the Sandaime Hokage, his sensei. Minato sealed the 9 tails inside his stone? Yes, Sarutobi answered and then held up the child so that the Sannin could see his face. 3 perfect scars marred his otherwise blemish-free skin on each cheek. They looked like whiskers. End flashback. Suddenly all hell broke loose and the crowd charged the boy and his fox. Jiraiya was about to save his student's son, but he stopped short. Red chakra was bubbling out of the blonde and forming a layer around the boy. His eyes turned red and his teeth and nails elongated into fangs and claws. His 6 whisker marks became more pronounced and deeper in color. He let out a low, feral growl and formed a hand seal. Kagebushin no Jutsu. Every ninja that knew of the forbidden technique immediately froze as tens of very real and solid clones appeared in and around the crowd. Almost instantly, those with little or no ninja experience fled in a panic. Naruto's clones moved to surround the blonde and the fox with a very thick clone shield. Everyone tensed. The only villagers that remained were retired jounin or chunin. Even though they had been retired for years, and in some cases, decades, they were not to be taken lightly. These were the ones that usually brought him the closest to death's door in his previous beatings. To everyone's horror, all of the blonde clones drew 2 kunai apiece. In all of the previous beatings, Naruto had refused to even throw a punch at his attackers, but now he was drawing 200 deadly weapons. The clone shield now had teeth. With a yell, the clones and the original moved as one, charging the weakest part of the circle. The mass of blondes broke through the circle, flinging some unfortunate villagers away like rag dolls. Sustaining only a handful of casualties, the blonde army charged forward unhindered. The circle of villagers collapsed into the gap created by the Jinchuriki. As the mass of clones ran, several hinged themselves into mirror images of the Kyuubi, and paired up with one of many blonde clones. Suddenly, the army stopped and faced the incoming villagers, while the originals and their clone lookalikes fell in 10 different directions. Mere seconds before the two forces collided and did combat, a large cloud of smoke formed between them. It disappeared just as quickly as the smoke created by a clone, only this time it revealed a massive battle toad with a white-haired man standing gallantly atop it. "You must be the lowest of the low to even think about attacking a kid," Jiraiya said with a frown. "But sir," the demon, a former chunin, cried out only to be cut off. "Is not a threat to you or Konoha," Jiraiya said with a dismissive wave of his hand. "The yondaime was a master sealer, and it was I who taught him everything he knew. I even checked the seal myself and found nothing wrong with it." An ANBU with a weasel mask appeared with a flicker at the toad Sannin's side. "Allow my squad to deal with this, Jiraiya-sama." Fine. Jiraiya consented and allowed his summon to return to the summoning's world. A 4-man ANBU squad surrounded the attackers and bound them up. The toad Sannin walked to the mass of blonde shadow clones. Each one of them tightened their grips on their weaponry and took a step back. "Don't worry. I'm not here to hurt you or your original and his companion." 3 sets of eyes softened slightly at the toad Sannin's words. "Where are the 2 of you staying anyway? You guys have some nice clothes on." "The Hyuga clan estate," one blonde said before the army of shadow clones disappeared in a puff of smoke. Smiling, Jiraiya made his way to his former student's abode, but look at those curves. The white-haired pervert immediately began to tail a most beautiful and voluptuous villager. Giggling perversely, the Sannin muttered, "Konohas are by far the best." Naruto was just reaching the gates of the Hyuga clan estate when the memories from 30 of his clones rushed into his head. "Who was that man?" he muttered to himself. He stumbled, but the Kyuubi's tail caught him and righted him. The guard at the gate saw this and came to see how he was. Naruto had become a source of lively energy that the Hyuga clan would never admit they lacked. It was a refreshing break from the old dreary ways of the Hyuga clan. The blonde boy and his fox were the pulsing energy that livened Konoha's most formal clan. Naturally, some of the younger Hyuga had taken a liking to the blonde ball of energy. He had some sort of charm that gained him allies in some places, but unfortunately, not all the villagers were willing to give him a chance for his charm to work on them. Their hatred of the Kyuubi, coupled with the pain of losing loved ones, was too great a barrier to overcome. Luckily, he had a safe haven, but there were plenty out there who called for his death daily. "Naruto-kun, are you alright?" one guard asked, at his side opposite from the Kyuubi. She held his arm to give him support. "Hi, I think so," Naruto replied, half there. "I got attacked?" "You don't look that bad," the second guard said, standing in front of him. "Must have escaped pretty quickly." "If Itachi-sensei hadn't taught me the Kagebushin no Jutsu, I would have been toast," Naruto replied. They helped to scare off all but the retirees. Naruto called the former ninja who attacked him retirees. After all, they had retired from the shinobi ranks. "I have 2 problems believing that," the male guard stated as Naruto rose to his feet. 1. You called an Uchiha-sensei, and 2. You claimed that you used a Jounin-level forbidden ninjutsu. You haven't been training in ninjutsu for a day, yet you think that you can use such an advanced technique? Naruto didn't offer a verbal reply. Instead, he formed a hand seal and dumped the last of his reserves into forming a single, solitary shadow clone. Both guards were stunned to say the least, but quickly dismissed whatever doubts they had about the blonde boy and quickly carried him inside, leaving their third court companion to stay and watch over the gate in their absence. The blonde was brought to the Hyuga clinic where he was diagnosed with chakra exhaustion. Using a high-level technique at the age of 7 was dangerous for even a Jinchuriki. His body still hadn't been accustomed to the demonic chakra flowing through him and his enlarged chakra coils. However, the fact that he could operate at the level he had made his achievement even more remarkable. With the Kyuubi aiding our young blonde, his stay in the clinic was short. In fact, he was up and about within 2 hours, and the nurses were willing to discharge him only after an extensive examination with their Byakugan to make sure his chakra coils were functioning normally. Typically, when a ninja suffered from chakra exhaustion, the effects were caused by a lack of chakra flowing through their chakra system. Because the chakra system is so closely entwined with the major organs of the human body, chakra exhaustion is extremely dangerous. Ninja in the past have killed themselves from using too much chakra. That is why everyone was surprised when Naruto was walking about as if nothing had happened about an hour before dinner time. Some hypothesized that it was because dinner was so close that his body healed itself, while others attributed it to his seemingly endless supply of energy. Either way, the blonde and the fox were ready for dinner at 6 in the evening as they normally were. Jiraiya, Toad Sannin, Toad Sage, and all-around super pervert approached the gate to the Hyuga estate. He had just done some of the best research in a month and was feeling very good. His next book would be absolutely incredible. Jiraiya-sama, a guardman said in surprise. What brings you to the Hyuga estate this evening? Does a blue-eyed, blonde-haired boy around this tall? Jiraiya held his hand about 3.5 feet off the ground. With a red fox live here by any chance? You mean Naruto-kun? A second guard asked. Yes, he does. Did he do something wrong today? The guards we replaced said he was attacked, and that they didn't get much more out of him. He was suffering from chakra exhaustion, apparently. I see. The Sannin mumbled. May I see him? I was quite impressed by his shadow clone display. So the rumors are true, the third member of the guard said. I don't see why not. The first guard answered. Do you know the way to the clinic? I think I do, though it has been quite a while since I've been here. The Toad Summoner replied. Well, it's still in the same place on the northeast side of the estate. The guard replied. Shall we inform Hayashi-sama that you have arrived? Sure, I'll find him in the dining hall, correct? Jiraiya asked. Dinner is usually served at about 6, so you have about 20 minutes to see if Naruto is still in the clinic. That boy has inhuman healing abilities. Good to know, Jiraiya said before entering the gate. Good evening, but I think I smell dinner cooking and must be off. With that, Jiraiya walked over to the Hyuga clinic where he was expecting to find at least a conscious blonde boy to talk to. What do you mean he's at dinner? Jiraiya demanded, looking at the nurse in disbelief, not that those curves could lie. He was up and about in 2 hours, and after a Byakugan examination he left about 15 minutes ago. The nurse replied. So I guess I'd better head over to the dining hall if I want to see him. That would probably be best, the nurse replied. He'll be eating with Hayashi-sama and his family. Thank you, my dear. The pervert ahem super pervert thanked the nurse, but not after giving her a good long look before hurrying out the door. Sometimes it was best to not overstay one's welcome. Yes, sir. The Kyuubi couldn't help but drool at the smell of dinner being cooked. Her extra-sensitive nose didn't help either, as she could detect underlying scents of herbs and spices, which seasoned the meat. By scent alone, the red vixen could determine that it was a juicy slab of red meat, cooked medium well with a glorious smell to it. She licked her lips, eagerly waiting for the meal to begin, completely oblivious to the conversation around her. She was facing directly at the kitchen door, and there was nothing that was going to distract her. Naruto, I know that you feel fine, but I think that you should still take it easy for a little while, Hana said, smiling at the boundless energy that flowed from the blonde Jinchuriki. I know, but I just can't wait for dinner. Naruto grinned sheepishly. Q-chan isn't talking right now and she's staring at the kitchen door, so something must be amazingly well cooked in there. Can't wait to dig in. Naruto-kun, you need to learn patience. Hinata giggled at the blonde's antics. I waited for an hour in the clinic while they ran checks on me, Naruto replied. Isn't that long enough for one day? It's a start, Naruto, but a ninja must have extreme patience, Hana said as a branch member entered the room and whispered something into Hayashi's ear. The head of the Hyuga clan immediately called for everyone's attention. Everyone! I have something to announce. Everyone gave him their attention and turned to face him except the Kyuubi, who simply flipped her ears back to hear the clan head better. Her nose and eyes were glued to the kitchen. My Genin-sensei is coming for dinner tonight, so please be on your best behavior. A chorus of high resounded through the dining hall as a member of the kitchen staff hurried out with another place setting. Until she realized that the meal was not coming, the Kyuubi was standing at attention licking her chomps. "Kyu-chan," Naruto said in somewhat of a loud voice. "You expecting dinner so soon?" "Shut it. I'm starved." The vixen snapped, a drop of drool escaping her jaw. "If you had my nose, you'd be looking forward to this meal." "How can you be hungry?" Naruto demanded. "You're not the one who did serious training with the Scardi-Uchiha." "Scardi-Uchiha?" Hayashi asked, entering the conversation in the middle. "I thought that you were being trained by Uchiha Itachi." "The little runt respects my power," the Kyuubi answered. "That's all." With the interruption over as far as she was concerned, she resumed her duties of kitchen door watcher. Itachi-sensei practically freaked out when Kyu-chan started to talk to him in Gigi's office the other day. Naruto explained. He kept calling her Kyuubi-sama and stuff like that until she told him to call her Kyuubi-san or something like that, can't quite remember. The assembled Hyuga's sweat dropped at the blonde's remark. Naruto could list off the address of every ramen stand he had been to in the past month, but he couldn't remember what his demon companion told his sensei what to call her. Oh well, he was only 7 after all, and ramen was much more interesting than formal names and such. He called the Hokage Gigi for crying out loud. "I see," Hayashi replied slowly. The door to the dining hall opened, and in walked a silver-haired man. He had red markings on his face, which made him look wild. Hayashi stood up and walked over to greet the strange man. "May I have everyone's attention?" Almost instantly, everyone shut up and looked at the duo standing by the door. The cool, calm and collected Hayashi was the absolute opposite of the wild man standing next to him. "This is my Genin-sensei, Jiraiya the Toad Sannin," said Sannin, waved hello to the assembled Hyugas and blonde Uzumaki. "There he is. Hello everyone, it is nice to be here. Thank you for letting me intrude this fine evening." "It's no problem at all, Jiraiya-sama," Hana said as she motioned for the old man to sit down near the head of the table, across from Naruto and his fox. "That's odd. I didn't think that Hayashi would allow a pet into the dining hall. Oh, here comes the food and doesn't smell wonderful."